to see that with a glass dome. Think about it. Just grab a rubber ball and place it under a faucet. Notice how the water doesn't stick to the ball. I wonder why. Look at your shoe when you're standing outside. Is it curved? I don't think so. Go take a flight somewhere. Last time I checked, you aren't flying sideways like this. How would that even work, folks? If I jump up, I'm gonna land right where I started from, because we ain't spinning. Don't give me that look. You know what I'm saying is true. And you know what? Why stop at flat Earth? I say we expand our horizons. Flat sun, flat moon. It's just a light bulb anyway. Everything's flat. The sky is a hologram. You say, this all sounds crazy. Hey, it may sound crazy to you, but the flat earthers are everywhere from North America to Asia, all over the globe. And if you think they're stupid, wicked, or both, and that their brains have been fried with the most nonsensical cosmology you've ever heard in your entire life, that they seem to be under some kind of delusion that takes reality denial to a whole new level, and when you hear them speak, you cannot help but point and laugh, it sounds to me like you've got a case of the Baptist bias.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining us on the Baptist Bias. We've got an interesting show this evening. Not a typical one. We're going to have a special debate with Austin Whitsitt. And in fact, we have a special moderator. I guess we only use Owens. But we've got Owen Benjamin's going to be moderating for us. And we've got a lot of people all over the globe this evening going to be tuning in and watching the show. But I'm not your host. I'm going to be kicking it over to Owen. Owen Benjamin, thanks so much for coming on the show and moderating this discussion for us.
Me, man. This is very exciting. I wasn't aware of Pastor Shelley. I just looked him up, though. Looks kind of based. Looks pretty cool. I know Whitsitt gets it. He's a solid dude. And this is a fun debate. And I know to be really condescending and ad hominem and all that, but I just set up some parameters in the beginning so that it's very constructive. All right, first, I want both sides to agree that the other side's opinion does not make them evil or stupid or crazy or dangerous. Can we all like verbally agree that?
Agreed.
I'm not going to attack Austin personally in the show, but I do think that some flat earthers are wicked. So I don't know if that is a
yeah. Well, some people who like lemonade are wicked.
Sure.
This is what we need. We need a higher level of logic here. So when you say flat earthers are wicked, so like Brahms are wicked. All right. And I hear you guys talk about that flat earth is dangerous. Earth is flat is objectively not dangerous, and it does not mean you're stupid. Can you admit that before we start?
Well, of course, I think it's stupid. I mean, that's the whole point of the discussion. I mean,
no, but it doesn't mean the person. Okay, like I agreed to do this because I think that we can have a good logical debate. But if you're just going to be like an ankle biter, like, just follow the rules. All right. Do you think that someone is stupid if they believe that there is a person or a dangerous person or a crazy person?
Well, I couldn't be honest with the fact that if I believe the earth is a globe and that's a fact, that someone who doesn't believe that wouldn't be stupid.
So you can't answer the question. You just can't answer.
No.
So the answer, you think everyone who is stupid and crazy that believes, like, we can't do a debate if that's the presumption.
Yeah, but if I think that his position has merit, then why would I have my position? I mean, the poster that we sent to everybody
I never asked
literally has a quote of me saying that they're stupid. So I can't contradict myself.
Okay, you ready? I'm not saying, do you think his position has merit? Do you think that everyone who believes in the flat earth is a stupid?
I think that lots of people are intelligent, but that position is stupid.
Okay, so do you believe that everyone who believes the Earth is flat is a student? It's a yes or no question. This is super easy, man. I'm not even trying to be antagonistic. I'm trying to be like totally unbiased. But you in the show so aggressively with your little light bulbing and like posturing like everyone's dumb. That's not how you start a debate. Like that's dishonorable.
Well,
Like,
I did agree to the debate
Yeah,
and
it's
said that it would be kind of hostile. And again, I'm not trying to. I'm willing to have the conversation. I'm not going to just sit here and just make insults. So if that's what you're worried about,
because something here, I have something here. This is called the ad hominem horn. Okay, Pastor Shelley.
sure.
So you do an ad hominem where you call someone a name. I'm going to blow it in your face. This is called the ad hominem horn. In a long ago time, men who did debate knew that you're not supposed to attack the character of the other person. And I feel like I really have to like instill this in you because I can already tell that's your main thing. If you try to do ad hominem, I will blow the ad hominem horn. And I'll also do it with logic fallacies like appeal to authority, appeal to consensus, circular reasoning, red herring. You understand? So that's it. Like if you start running your mouth like everyone's stupid but you and you're this special boy, ad hominem horn. And which it gets it, I'll say the same deal. It gets willing to admit that people that believe in the heliocentric model, it does not mean they're evil. Can we admit that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Can you admit that it does not mean they're stupid? It does not mean they're liars. And it does not mean that they can't have a connection to God. Because I hear that with flat earthers, and I don't believe that at all. So are you willing to verbally admit that someone can in the heliocentric and still have a functioning connection with God, not be a liar, not be stupid? Can we all agree to that?
Yeah, of course. Some of the smartest, most based Christians in the world were thought the Earth was a globe.
See, you see how easy that is, Pastor Shelley? It's that simple.
I think
it's that simple.
Yeah, again, I think you're trying to straw man me here. And again, like I agreed to the show because I do think the position is stupid, and the people believing it's stupid. So like that is my position. Now that doesn't mean that those.
So your position is the people who believe it are all stupid.
At least in that category. In that category, yeah. I mean, if someone told me that they think that a man is a woman, I would say that that's stupid.
That's so good.
I will do this, but this is already a little ridiculous because this isn't a debate. You're just calling names.
Horn is so
and I'm trying to set a parameter that it's also not faith-based. Can you agree that this is not a faith-based belief, right? Like it requires proof. You can argue it. Like if someone disagrees with you, it does not make them evil. And you have to use logic and reason to attempt to back up your case, not ad hominem, not snarky little things like you just did. Okay, will you admit to that before we start? And then we will start. But I really don't want this to be a shit show where you're just so backed into a corner that you're like, well, I mean, yeah, we're like flying with a pizza. That's not productive, dude. And it's kind of, that's
the
not
opening
what
of the
a
show is
debate
just
is.
a joke. I thought comedians understood what humor was, but the conversation.
Oh yeah, no, I understand.
The conversation.
So now you're at. So now you're saying I don't understand what humor is.
I don't know why we
that your
can't just have the discussion. Why can we just have the discussion?
I'm setting the rules, Pastor Shelley. So you're now claiming that comedian Owen Benjamin, does not understand what humor is. Is that your claim?
I just didn't assume that you would be so offended by words like idiot, considering the fact that in your bits,
No,
you
I'm not
literally call
offended.
people names all the time. I mean,
It's
if
not- I'm
someone
not
said that
offended.
they think that,
I call you a queer. You're a queer, gay, dick, gay. Like of
why
course I
can't
can
we
do
call
that.
each other names? I'm not afraid of that. If someone's
No,
losing,
it's not afraid. It's not afraid. It's that if your argument requires ad hominem, it's not an argument, and that's
mine
not
does
a
not
debate.
require it. I just was simply bringing it in so we could have a fun show.
How about this? Every 10 minutes, we'll take a minute, and we can call each other pussies and asses, and you suck and you're stupid. That way you can get your jollies up. All right? Is that good? Every 10 minutes, we will take a time out because Pastor Shelley wants to call people names, and he thinks we're afraid of his names. Are you yes? Okay,
I
no,
just
but you
wanna have
got
the
to set
discussion.
boundaries. Okay, but you're willing to, so you're agreeing now. You're verbally agreeing that you will not call names, You won't do appeal to, you won't do logic fallacies. You will do that.
He doesn't make it
It's like
so
I'm talking
mad.
to a 3-year-old right now. Like, you won't eat the ice cream in the car.
I feel like
Right?
I'm
You just
having
set
to
up a
sign a
break
COVID
up
contract
game
now
phone.
or something like that.
Yep, 'cause
Or
you don't have any
community
moderate.
guidelines for YouTube or something. I thought this was a free
Like,
speech
wait a minute,
platform.
take away my whole thing. You can't do that. Fuck.
Okay, one more time, Pastor
I was
Shelley.
depending on it.
All right, I realize.
I just don't want
words do
to.
not
I just don't want to
offend me.
agree to some vague definition of Owen Benjamin's view of a logical fallacy. Because couldn't you be wrong? I feel like the moderator is just making
that's
sure
Owen
that
Benjamin
we're
must be
fair on
stupid
time
funded.
and that people aren't over
That's
talking
what
each other.
I'm setting the rules because I know ad hominem is what you're up to. Ad hominem has a very, very clear definition.
I understand
You
what an ad
attack
hominem
the-
attack is. I'm not planning on doing that.
Pastor Shelley, let me finish real quick. You just said I don't. You just said that I'm making things up as I go, okay? Ad hominem means you attack the person, not the argument. Are you willing to admit, will you say that you will not do that during this debate? And if you do, I will blow my ad homo horn.
I'll do my best to avoid that.
So you can't do that. Like you
I'm just
can't
saying,
agree
like,
to that.
I'm just saying, I'm not going to try to do that, but you
Free
may.
speech doesn't mean mentally retarded. Just because you can say something doesn't mean that you can't control yourself based on a boundary that we're setting right now. This is an ancient
Can we
art.
just do the show?
Not until we set the guideline, or else it'll just be yelling
If you
at each
feel
other.
like I made a mistake, then just call it out. Let's just move on.
So you won't say that you won't attack his character during the debate. Like, you can't agree to that because it's free speech.
That's
so
an
this is
arbitrary
all-
definition.
Why can't he just say I
Ad
agree?
hominem, attack the
I
man
understand
that
what an
is-
ad hominem attack is.
This dude's a pastor.
So,
too.
okay, based on that
Wow.
definition, will you attack Austin?
I'm not
during the
planning
thing?
on doing
Like,
it.
person-
No.
Okay,
You're not
he's gonna
planning
try
on
to
doing it.
Move on.
Okay, so you can't agree to that. So if you do that, it's because you can't control yourself. Yes?
Whatever definition you want to attribute. Can we just do the show? I don't understand.
This is great.
It's not a show,
This
it's a
is
debate. This is not a
Let's-
show.
Why can't we
You
start? We have
want to
5
do
minutes.
blood sports? I'll make funny all day
I
long.
thought I was
You
supposed
wanna
to
go-
debate
I wanna
Austin.
see that record at a Renaissance Festival. All right, you want to go against me with mockery? This is what I do for a living, okay? We're doing debating right now. We're not doing mockery because I would beat you badly. I've done it professionally for 25 years.
The guy that is refusing to hear anybody call a name.
Okay, at a marriage.
You're
like, let's
afraid
say
of the word
we're-
retarded.
Let's say we're at a wedding and I'm marrying two people and I say, let's not mock Puerto Ricans, yes? And you go, well, I can't agree to that. I mean, what? So there's no free speech? This is a debate. This is not a comedy show. I did not agree to do a comedy show, okay?
I'm not expecting it to be a comedy show.
Oh, I
I
can
know.
do that.
Okay, got it. All right, so are we settled? We're gonna do this. You're not gonna attack the character. You're gonna because
I don't
if
even
flat
know
earthers are so
Austin
stupid-
to attack his character.
No. It's like everyone who believes this is a dumb person. They're crazy, right? I just watched your intro. It was retarded. Okay. So if that's your argument, that isn't an argument. That's
I didn't
literally
argue.
stupid.
That was just,
You're like
it was
a
just
stupid.
a funny intro to the show. That's not me.
No one laughed.
Okay.
No.
Like no one in the world laughed. Like, I know comedy. All right.
I'm sure
Your
people
entire
over the globe
audience
thought it was
sat there.
stupid.
But he,
It was stupid. Everyone thought it was stupid.
So
Everyone.
you can ad hominem attack me all day long, but I can't do that. I just want to make sure I understand.
Yeah, definitely. I will not ad hominem you if you agree to not ad hominem everybody else.
Let's go.
Because if not, I'm going to mock your mother.
Go for it.
Yo,
Okay.
Owen, come on, bro.
Okay,
Start it
well,
up.
just remember that. And when your mom gets upset, just let her know that you couldn't
Well, she's
control
dead,
yourself.
so good luck upsetting her.
That's even easier to mock. Dead people
my
can't say anything
God.
back, Pastor Shelley.
Holy shit.
Dead people
Can you
are the
just
easiest
moderate
people
the
to mock in
debate,
world.
please?
I just want you to know that if I mock your dead mom, what are you afraid? You afraid of free speech?
No.
If I mock
I'm
your
not.
dead
I wanna have
mother,
the
she
show.
won't be able... Right, no, I'm doing it right now.
Are you afraid
Your
that I'm going to
dead
destroy
mom-
Austin or
This is
something?
really, really bad.
Like, what's the
No,
point? Why
your
can't we
dead
just have
mom
the
will
show?
not
Can we
be-
I think
please
it's
just have the
hilarious.
show?
I think it's he's.
Yeah,
he's-
we can
he's-
have the
he might
show
push
as
him
long
too
as you
far,
agree to
bro.
not do ad hominem.
If you won't have
I'm
the
not
show, we'll just
messing
kick you
around.
off because there's no point in even having this conversation.
He's
Can we just
close to
have the
leaving,
show?
So now you want to
And
kick
I
me
wouldn't even
off?
blame
If you
No, I want to
to,
have the
that's
show.
fine.
Like he's.
I want
like,
you to
he's
just
really
moderate the
close to
discussion.
leaving,
Let's
bro.
start with our 5-minute opening minute discussion.
Imagine if I say, let's play basketball. No one uses a knife, okay? And you're like, well, I can't guarantee I won't use a knife. Let's just play basketball. You're like, you have to agree, no ad hominem, or else we're not doing this. Because that's all you're gonna do. Is you're gonna be
In
like,
the basketball game, they all agree not to
Really
foul people, but if they
struggling
do,
not
they
moving
get it called by the ref. That's your job. Just do the show.
okay, so if you ad
Yank,
hominem, I'll
dude.
just call you out for it and call
Go
you
for
gay,
it.
stupid.
Let's do the show.
Okay, cool. Let's do this. All right. So we're going to start off with 5 minutes each. Each person has 5 minutes to go, and then the other person gets to respond to the 5 minutes. When you're at 4 minutes, I will ring a bell. That bell lets you know you have 1 more minute. Okay? If there
This guy's
are
so
logic
scared of the
fallacies,
horn.
you will get the ad homo horn. Okay? And then after that, we can do a little bit of back and forth, and at the end, we'll have closing arguments. Sound good, boys?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Let's go for it.
Pastor
Thanks for
Shelley, does that sound good?
Let's do it.
Okay. Since it's home court, Pastor Shelley, I'll ask you, would you like to go first or would you like to pass the baton to Whitsitt Gets
Let him go for it.
That's very nice of you, and I do appreciate that. And I think we're already making up a little bit. All right. So we're going to start the clock.
Look at his face.
We are. We're going to end up
bro.
friends after this. We will. You'll see.
Guy is so mad.
I'm going to start the clock at 5 minutes. And so Whitsitt is arguing in the affirmative that the Earth is a flat, not moving plane. Pastor Shelley is arguing against that it is a spinning ball in a vacuum. All right. So that's the parameters. All right. Let's kick this thing off. Let me get my little clock.
At last.
Reset and go.
All right. Yeah, so thanks for having me on. Thanks for modding, Owen. So the position is pretty simple. We were kind of all told that the Earth is a spinning ball and then it flies through space. But if you actually think about everything logically, we need to step back. And so the default position is actually that the Earth is a stationary plane. So yeah, I take the affirmative position that it is a stationary plane, and that's supported with every empirical piece of evidence that exists. So we obviously don't experience the Earth moving. In fact, we have highly precise interferometry measurements that have shown that the Earth's not moving. We obviously see the horizons horizontal. We actually use plane survey to do all civil engineering to build everything in the world as if the Earth is flat. We fly the plane as if the Earth is flat and stationary. So on the surface, pun intended, right, everything is the default being that the Earth is flat and stationary. Of course, we see everything in the sky move, etc. So there's a claim that the opposite of that is true. So actually, in terms of logic, right, that has a pretty substantial burden of proof. We've already substantiated it just with the default empirical position, but that's kind of the meta here. And one thing that happens a lot is people typically they say, well, if the Earth is flat, then how does this work? Like, oh, well, what is the moon then? And I've never been to the moon, by the way. No one has, and I don't know what it is. I don't need to know what it is to falsify this claim that the Earth is a globe, right? So falsification is independent of replacement. That's important. And hopefully we can keep that in mind going through the conversation, because if the tactic is just to say, if I can get a gotcha on the flat earther of how the whole universe works, then somehow the Earth becomes a ball again, that's an illogical way to go about it. And then I'll go through some of the evidences that we have that directly refute it. You go back into time, you get to 1887, Michelson-Morley, they did an interferometry test, and it showed that the Earth is not moving. So much so that the graveler named Einstein had to come in and change all physics and say that time slows down and the measuring rod contracted to deceive us into thinking that the Earth is stationary. And that's the modern claim of physics today. To claim the Earth is moving through space, you actually have to say time slows down to trick you into thinking so. And that's a positive claim that literally can't be verified at all. That test has been replicated hundreds of times, even in modern history. So the interferometry measurements show that the Earth's not moving. It's the most precise way to measure motion in the world. And actually, when we do detect a rotational motion with, say, ring laser gyros, it changes with altitude, which is impossible on a sphere. The actual measurement would have to stay the same at latitude, regardless of altitude. So that's a direct falsification of the claim that the Earth is moving, which is actually, again, the positive claim that needs to be substantiated anyway. As to the flat part of it, like I said, we already utilize the Earth as if it's flat. We make plane survey measurements. We literally measure the Earth to be flat. That's how we do civil engineering to build runways, railways, bridges. Our entire life is literally built upon the understanding the Earth's flat and the flat Earth measurements called plane survey measurements. What then happens is people take those flat Earth measurements, stitch them together, and claim the Earth's a globe with a presupposed R value. And so that's going to get into how we know for sure that this globe model that was brought to us by Jesuits is incorrect. We actually falsified the radius. So if the radius value is wrong, the entire model is wrong. Because the globe model's day and night cycle uses that, gravity uses that, distances on the Earth use that. Everything about the model boils down to the radius value of the sphere that is proposed. The way that we have falsified that, and there are many ways, we've shown that the horizon is in fact not physical, it's apparent. And we've seen the horizon over 10 times further than it needs to be, requiring the radius value be 250,000 miles away. Basically just saying the R word, saying refraction doesn't make it true. You have to substantiate that. We also have line of sight radio wave transmissions that go far beyond the limit of the curvature of the Earth, and microwave transmissions up to 10,000 miles, and it should get blocked
Ken,
to
but
say
you're
a
hot
couple
micing, bro.
hundred miles. And so that's a physical test that shows that the Earth is a plane. And there are many more, right? So really, just to reiterate it, because I think I'm coming up on the 5 minutes, the simple part is that
30 seconds.
the simple part is that we have our burden of proof substantiated as the default, that the Earth's a stationary plane, that the stuff in the sky moves. And then the claim that the Earth is actually the opposite of that requires the burden of proof. And we went a step further and even tested that claim and falsified the rate R value and claim of motion. Therefore, it can't be anything other than a stationary plane.
Okay, that was almost exactly 5 minutes. Excellent open remarks. Focusing mainly on the burden of proof being on that who makes the claim. And since, your eyes, ears, whatnot, it appears that the Earth is not moving, the person who claimed it is moving has to make the claim. And then he backed that up with many things. Now it's Pastor Shelley's turn for a 5-minute opening. And I will give you the bell at 4 minutes and 30 seconds. Go ahead.
Well, I did have a opening statement prepared. I'm not going to be able to read that because apparently ad hominem is not allowed. So I will appeal to the parts of what I was going to say that don't necessarily bring up Bible verses or what this conversation is about.
Dude,
But
that's why you
specifically
wouldn't
proving the
agree.
Earth is
Are
a
you
sphere takes about 30
serious?
seconds. There's plenty of YouTube videos online that prove that. You can watch them. There's 1-minute videos, 2-minute videos, 10-minute videos. There's plenty of things that appeal to all the evidences and all the proofs. Number one, the stars are flipped from the northern and southern hemisphere, which makes it abundantly clear that we're on a sphere. And yeah, people are walking upside down to us. And additionally, we see the sun rise in the east, set in the west. We have thousands of photos and videos of the Earth from satellites sent over by 90 countries. There's over 90 countries that have set up satellites. It's that simple. The Earth is obviously a sphere. It's been observed. It's been tested. Everything we experience in our lives confirms a spherical Earth, as well as, a heliocentric viewpoint of our solar system specifically. And additionally, when it comes to history, the Bible, or science, they all appeal to the exact same thing. In Isaiah 40, verse 22, the Bible says it is he that sitteth upon the circle of the earth. And the Bible has always known about the shape of the earth. It's always known about different cosmology and different things that we experience, see in our universe. And science is always catching up to the Bible specifically. For a long time, I honestly didn't believe that flat earthers even existed. So, it definitely is something that, for me, I was not aware of. I kind of thought it was just fake. And yet I have run into some people that, do a claim, like in my personal life that I know that are flat earthers. And there's been some people that have changed their mind. So I do think that it is possible for someone to change their mind on this particular issue. When it comes to their specific evidences, it seems like they have about 6 basic categories that I typically find their arguments. It seems like, number one, they typically appeal to experiments where they see things further away than expected. These are typically over large bodies of water, and they don't really consider refraction or elevation changes. Another thing that they do is they appeal to simple observations like it looks fat and it feels flat. However, you can't always feel movement in a car or an airplane. Additionally, they appeal to the Bible, but the Bible is not compatible with their model whatsoever. Number 4, they usually appeal to the fact that government lies about things like 9/11, vaccines, JFK. And sure, the government does lie a lot, but that doesn't prove that they're lying about the shape of the earth. The fifth one that they usually bring up is discarded or debunked alternative scientific theories, such as geocentrism, the Aether. We even heard earlier the appeal to the Michelson-Morley experiment. However, that was based on the fact that the earth is moving, and it did not prove that the earth doesn't move. It proved that simply they can't detect any ether. And so the ether was discarded shortly after. It was decided that the speed of light is a constant. And so if the speed of light is a constant, it really disrupts a lot of those older scientific theories. And the ether was basically discarded as being unuseful in predicting anything. The sixth thing that typically flat earthers will do is they will appeal to the fact that there's bad science. And of course there is. When it comes to the Big Bang Theory, when it comes to evolution, these things are complete junk. They're not true. They're made up. And so they kind of appeal to that as a gateway into the idea that there's other lies, other bad science, and they suggest that somehow the heliocentric view or the spherical earth is somehow bad science again. But when it comes to, this specific situation, I think it's really clear that this is just a distraction from what's really important. And I think that Owen kind of brought this up earlier, and the idea that this isn't the biggest issue necessarily. I think it's a distraction from the gospel of Jesus Christ. I think that that's our sole purpose on this earth, is to get saved and to give people the gospel so that they could be saved. And it seems like every time I run into a flat earther, they only want to talk about that. Like, they're just so ardent and just so vitriolic for that particular viewpoint. It just seems like their whole worldview. And so, I do think that it's certainly a distraction. I have a lot of other strong opinions about that, but I'll keep them to myself for now. So we're good to go.
Good job.
Okay, so that concluded Pastor Shelley's opening statement, and his argument rested on 2-minute, 5-minute, and 10-minute YouTube videos existing. 90 countries have said so. The government sometimes doesn't lie, and that flat earthers rely too much on experiments, how things look and feel. Some people who have changed his mind, and the speed of light is a constant. One question I would ask, because a lot of what his argument rested on was the church. Was the church always heliocentric, globe-based, even before Galileo? So was it always this? Because you said science catches up to the globe. I'm just curious, was the church always a globe model?
Just to be clear, I said the Bible. So just because people may have bad interpretations or not understand the Bible,
okay, good.
doesn't mean that the Bible is wrong. Additionally, I think it's impossible to always know what happened throughout history. But yes, historically, Christianity, there's been plenty of Christians that have believed in a spherical earth, but there have been people that have denied that. So I think it's a mixed bag. I would not say it's all one or the other.
Well, Galileo was arrested for thinking the earth moved in the 17th century. So that's not exactly a mixed bag. But anyway, so now we're going to kick it over to Witsit Gets It for a 3-minute rebuttal to Pastor Shelley's opening statements. Go ahead, 3 minutes.
Okay, yeah. So on the scriptural thing, I mean, you obviously brought up Isaiah 40:22, and that circle, a specifically different word in Hebrew than he uses just before that, which is a different word for ball. So he specifically doesn't call it ball. And I actually have seen a video of you, and I didn't look too much into it, but you said, I hear a bunch of people say Hebrew cosmology, and you said, yeah, well, the Jews are wrong about everything. Well, the Messiah was a Jew, I guess, right? And I think he would have probably said, hey, you guys got the first part of the book wrong. So it's a wild argument to me. It obviously says it's immovable and fixed. It's you have to claim that the scriptures creation description is not literal, but I can prove that the scripture is literally correct outside of it, right? And so I find that part very interesting. Truth doesn't fear investigation, and that's what makes it so fascinating. And so we just can cover quickly the stuff you got wrong. You said that they discovered that the speed of light was constant. No, that's not correct. He assumed that it was because it had to be, along with time dilation and length contraction. In fact, it's been proven not to be. There's anisotropic signal propagation accounted for even in GPS. You brought up satellites, so I guess we can get into it, but satellites in no way prove the Earth's a globe. They actually use ellipses over a plane with a change in velocity relative to the center of the coordinate system and real inertial forces of a rotating universe, which are geocentric physics in their equations. It actually is evidence for geocentrism if satellites are up above us. You said that Michelson-Morley just failed to detect the ether. That's just patently incorrect. It was the relative motion of the Earth in the ether. What they were trying to detect was literally the motion of the Earth at 30 kilometers per second through an ether. They didn't. They threw the ether out. They then said that time slowed down, that the measuring apparatus contracted to deceive them into thinking that the Earth was stationary. You say we just say that we see too far. Well, yeah, there's physical limits to living on a sphere, and it doesn't comport to what we see. And we've seen hundreds of miles where there should be literally 3, 4, 5 vertical miles blocking what we see. And so you're going to have to verify the claim that it's all an illusion. So I'll just reiterate the point again. You have the burden of proof to substantiate these claims. You basically just use a baseless assertion fallacy over and over, and then you kind of appeal to consensus, and then you use a bunch of stereotype fallacies and poisoning the well fallacies, and then reification fallacies and affirming the consequent fallacies. And none of that is obviously going to cut it logically. So we'll have to get more into actual evidence.
Okay, and also, I'm not trying to come across as biased. I really am just listing someone's arguments. I swear to God, I wasn't trying to be like that. So I'm going to try and be less biased. No, I literally made a list of your arguments, and I read them back. All right, anyway, so that was Wits It Gets It responding to yours. And now I'm going to give you, Mr. Pastor Anderson, 3 minutes to respond to his. And I will say this. Thank you for the lack of ad hominems. It means a lot to me. It really, truly does. And I do appreciate it, and it shows a lot of honor, okay? And just for the record, I don't know what the Earth is, so I'm not this guy. I'm not, like, biased in that sense. I'm just a stickler when it comes to logic fallacies. Okay, Pastor Shelley, you have 3 minutes. Go.
No problem. You accidentally called me Pastor Anderson, but you clarified again secondly. Austin did not address the fact that the stars are flipped from the southern and northern hemisphere, which was my first argument. Additionally, he didn't address the fact that the sun is rising in the east and setting in the west, which is my second argument. Third argument was all the videos and photos that I brought up. He did not address my third argument. He likes to appeal to theoretical physics and act like he's smart and like he knows what he's talking about on those issues, but he's wrong. And specifically when it comes to the Michelson-Morley experiment, he's wrong again. They already know the fact that the Earth is moving around the sun. What it disproved was the ether. But I don't really care about getting into theoretical physics because we have so many simple proofs that he wants to ignore and not talk about that clearly prove the shape of the Earth and a heliocentric model. I would love to discuss Isaiah 40, verse 22. He brought up the Hebrew underlying word, which is hug. I'm sure he doesn't speak Hebrew. And specifically, if we look at this word in all translations, it appeals to the exact same thing. If we look up at the word circle in the dictionary, it will tell you that it's a sphere and it's the Earth and it's an orb. So he just wants to hide behind just sounding smart on these issues. But the problem is the Bible's very clear. And I get offended by someone that wants to say that the Bible is teaching a flat Earth because that would, in my mind, be heretical.
Bet you do get offended.
And it's very clear that the Bible is compatible with a spherical shape of the Earth, with a heliocentric model. I'm not sure if I understood if he said satellites don't exist, or maybe they don't exist in the way that we describe them. So I'm not sure exactly what his argument was on that particular issue. But again, theoretical physics did not exist at the 1600s or the 1300s, or if we want to go all the way back before the time of Christ, when tons of people had already proven the Earth was a sphere. When we talked about Eratosthenes had discovered the circumference of the Earth before the time of Christ. And we have maps, we have globes, we have all kinds of images from the Bible of people showing that the Earth is a sphere, believing it's a sphere. I don't need modern scientific theories.
Yes, I love
Okay, great job. and we will kick it back to Whitsitt in 1 second for him to address, and I wrote these down. Stars being flipped in the southern hemisphere, the sun rising in the east and the west, Eratosthenes, and the HQ, the Hoog question. And I will add this, though, as the moderator, I get to look things up. And Pastor Shelley just said that circle means a globe, and I just looked it up. Circle, the definition, a closed plane curve consisting of all points at a given distance from a point within it called the center. Not only is that not correct factually, it's actually the opposite.
Can I clarify that point?
No, it's a two-dimensional closed. That's a circle.
Can I clarify what I meant?
I just read you said the dictionary
in the 1828 Webster's dictionary, which would be closer to the 1611 King James Bible when it was translated. If you look at the second definition of the word circle, it literally says orb and sphere and earth.
No problem.
No, it doesn't. It says circle, circuit, compass. That's what the word means in Hebrew. You just made
yeah. And we do get to fact check you. This is not me being biased.
I have the image. If you want me to pull it up on the screen, I can pull it up.
I'm looking at the concordance right now, right? It says circle, circuit, compass.
Those are the three words that it's translated as in the King James Bible.
The first definition of 1828, in geometry, a plane figure comprehended by a single curved line called its circumference, every part of which is equally distant from a point called the center. Of course, all lines drawn from the center to the circumference or periphery are equal to each other. That is the first.
What's the second definition?
In popular use, so not the definition. I'm just going to let when
just
it says in popular use. No, but I'm establishing this. You said the definition is a globe or a ball, but the definition is actually a flat plane. In popular use, which basically means slang, like grabbler.
If you read the first definition, it says in geometry. So yeah, it's saying clarifying in a 2D drawing of geometry. It's
okay. Fair enough. The line that comprehends the figure, the plane or surface comprehended, and the whole body or solid matter of a round substance are demonstrated in a circle, a ring, an orb, the earth. Okay.
So it says ring, circle. I mean, you invoked it geometrically, saying it was describing a sphere. That's a geometric argument.
Yeah, ring is not, but it's fine.
So if we read orb is provided in the definition, and if you just type in,
this is really a weird reach to me, bro. This is a weird reach.
How is that a weird reach?
Though. I will give you that. I'll give you that. The word orb is in there. I did not know that, and that is a valid point.
And if you just type in orb into we can put it on the screen.
Give it up,
if you
Shelley.
type in orb in the Merriam-Webster 1828 dictionary and read what it says about what an orb is, there is a very in plain sight saying that it's a sphere.
Yeah, can there something be Can something be a circle and not a sphere?
In a two-dimensional world, of course, a circle is not a sphere.
Do we have quarters in the real three-dimensional world?
But that's not a sphere, and it's not.
It's a circle.
It's not a circle. It's not a circle. It's a disc. So there's a difference.
Okay.
It's
so
circular. It's round.
Real quick, I have to keep this focused. So I'm kicking it back over to Austin. He's now only going to have 2 minutes. I keep taking some time off, and you have to address specifically these points. Hoog in Hebrew, which means circle, and according to the 1828 dictionary, which is the closest to the 1611 King James Bible, the second definition in popular use has orb in there.
Oh, it's a good moderator, dude.
That is the point he's making. Okay. So just understand that doesn't make you stupid that you don't know all those points. All right. But anyway, that's the point. Stars in the southern hemisphere have a different path. That's something to be addressed. Different constellations. I've heard that a lot. I've heard some interesting and thought-provoking arguments against the flat Earth, saying that in the southern hemisphere, the constellations go the other way.
Let's just focus on one argument, because 2 minutes is not realistic for him to address all that.
Bro, I'm elaborating your argument. I literally am giving you a good argument because I've thought about this. The stars in the southern hemisphere are moving in a way that may contradict the current flat Earth model. Okay. Also, the sun rising in the east, setting in the west, And of course, the pre-Jesus philosopher Eratosthenes, who apparently calculated the size of the Earth on the orb. Okay, so those are the points that need to be addressed. And you have 2 minutes.
Yeah, so the southern star trails, for one, obviously the direction is not a problem at all. It's just merely perspective. If you look south, they'll look like they're going the other way. If they're all just rotating one way, every star in the sky goes east to west, right? So clockwise, counterclockwise, they're relative perceptive directions. I guess the stronger argument you should be making is that it supposedly goes around a central point rotating. And how would it rotate around that point? Well, actually, we have observations of people in the south where it doesn't match where it should be, the actual cardinal direction it should be on the globe. And then, of course, we're not even against all the magnetic declination corrections when you see the star trails and how it's like, oh, well, that's not really south because I have to correct 78 degrees according to my globe declination map. So long story short, where you think that you're seeing it perfectly, it's kind of an assumption. That isn't actually what always happens. And it's been replicated even with the dome. It'll just reflect out the central part and it'll look like it's rotating the other way around. I do agree that the star trails, if you never have heard any of this, you can just say that it doesn't make sense, but you have to look into it, see some visualizations. There are demonstrations that show it. This is exactly what I predicted would happen, though. No one ever addresses the falsification of the R value, and they say, look at this sky, explain the world. So we have sunsets east and west on here, you said. I don't know why is that a problem for the Earth. It's all been perfectly replicated. We can predict every single celestial phenomena. Actually, Shane modeled it all out for you guys because you love models. And then, of course, to try to make it in the 2 minutes, we
Shout
have
out to
very
Shane.
simply, like I said, and this wasn't addressed, there's two
Thank
different
you.
words. One is used for ball or sphere, and one is used for circle. Isaiah specifically uses different terms, right? And one of which he uses for the Earth is a circle. I don't care what American Englandized dictionary said 200 years later. That doesn't change it.
All right, we're about to send it back over. And I want to do a follow-up, just like I did with him with the church. Because there's questions I have with the flat Earth model. Austin, how do you explain that in the southern hemisphere, the days are longer in the summer, shorter in the winter, and they have allegedly, I've never been there, but allegedly there's 24 hours of daylight when you get close to the South Pole. And when you get really south and Chile, would that mean the sun would have to go faster on there? That to me is pointing towards a heliocentric.
Daylight
And
versus sunlight.
how would you clarify that? How would you clarify the very long days in the southern hemisphere in the winter and the very short days in the in our summer?
Yeah, so it's the same. It's the same way that the globe explains how the Earth spins faster at the equator than at a northern or southern latitude. So you have tangential velocity and angular velocity, meaning it can continue to go at the same angular velocity, but go faster. So in the south, they would have to be speeding up in tangential speed, tangential velocity, but it could just maintain the same angular speed. It would give you a longer day because the sun is going to be over a portion of it longer. And then this ties in, the end of that answer also ties into the next question you asked, which is say the 24-hour sun. Well, we don't actually see the 24-hour sun itself, right? They doctor footage, but we see the daylight, and the daylight has been replicated also with a dome. If you have a dome, like the scriptures blatantly say, with a firmament, it will actually reflect around in something called a coffee cup caustic. And it reflects around the entire brim of a dome. So the 24-hour sunlight is not a problem for the plain Earth. The 24-hour sun would be. And of course, they passed around this footage of supposedly a 24-hour sun for 2 years, and we found out that they faked it. They came out and admitted that it was faked. So, that kind of answers both of those questions if there's a container.
Yeah, because 24-hour sun, I don't think it is possible on a flat. It would have to be a glow. You know what I mean? If it's going all the way around, if you saw the sun all day long, it would have to be a ball. But you're making the claim that they faked that footage, and I've never been there. But you see, Pastor Shelley, I'm going both sides here.
Can I
all right,
comment
I'm
on
going to
that?
swing it. Yeah, I'm about to swing it back over to you. So let's do another 2 minutes each, and then I'll let you guys kind of go back and forth a bit, and then we'll do some closing statements. Or do you want to take questions from the audience, whatever you guys want? Or we can go as long as you want. I'm feeling good about this. Good job with the ad hominems. I want you to know that. I wasn't being a dick. It really does help. All right, 2 minutes. Pastor Shelley, go ahead.
Well, what Austin said does not explain why there's seasonality in the southern hemisphere and you see longer daylight cycles because specifically it's the tilt of the Earth. It's the tilt of the Earth that causes that. So in some parts of the season, the tilt is angled more towards the sun, so it gets more daylight. If the Earth was not tilted, then you would have just perfect 12-hour daylight and nighttime seasons. And near the equator, because it's virtually the same distance to the sun no matter where it orbits the sun, that's why it's at 12. But when you go in Dallas, sometimes it's 14 hours during the summer, sometimes it's 11 hours for the winter cycle. That's due to the tilt of the Earth and it being slightly further away from the sun. It's not about the tangential velocity that he brought up. So he's just flat wrong even on our viewpoint.
What is this thing you
specifically
call
when it comes
tangential?
to Isaiah 40:22, I just wanted to comment because if you read the Douay Reims, which was translated in 1500s, in the 1500s, they translated Isaiah 40 verse 22 as the globe of the earth. The 1602 Purificada, the Spanish Bible, said El Globo de la Tierra, which means the exact same thing, globe of the earth. If we look at the King James where it says circle of the earth, we all understand that we don't live in a two-dimensional world. And so that's why it's relevant what that would mean in a three-dimensional world. And I brought up.
Yeah, were those guys
So
on
you
the
get more
books
time.
too?
It's 30 seconds. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry. At three-dimensional
It's a
world,
warning bell.
it's important that the sphere would be the definition so that we can understand what we're talking about here. I did want to also comment when he brought up the idea of explaining Michelson-Morley or any of these other things. He's really just not addressing the issue. When he talked about the stars in the northern and the southern
Don't let him
hemisphere,
waffle.
he
Stop.
did not give a response that made any sense. It's very clear that
Okay,
if
look-
you're looking at it from two different perspectives,
Yeah,
it would be
get
upside
him,
down.
Owen. Let's go.
Okay, it's been 2 minutes. So I'm going to follow up a little bit because you're claiming he's not giving any argument. But, you know, like, what's your evidence for the tilt of the earth? You just stated that as fact and said he was wrong. So what is your evidence that the tilt of the earth is why the days change, the seasons? Because obviously I learned that in school. We all know about the tilt of the earth. How do you state that as a fact, and what is your evidence?
So there's multiple evidences. Number one, half of the year, the North Pole is.
That's observation. I'm not trying to be rude to cut you off, but evidence isn't an observation. So when you say there's a longer day in the northern hemisphere, that isn't evidence that the earth is tilted. That's an observation. And then you make a hypothesis, and then you're supposed to do a test, an experiment, and then you're supposed to get a theory, test the theory. That's actually the scientific method. When you say the stars look different, it's a globe, that's actually the first step of the scientific method is observation. Then you make a hypothesis, then you prove the hypothesis. So what is the evidence that the earth is tilted?
Well, the way people did calculate this was based on observations of daylight being different. So if I can calculate the difference of how much daylight there is, then I could calculate the tilt of the earth and seasonality and the fact that we have summer and winter and the fact that we have full daylight cycles in the northern and southern pole. So based on
and I'm not being
observations,
biased,
you can
that's not
calculate
science. You saying my dog is slow, therefore he ate a shoe. It's like if you make an observation that there's different days and seasons and all that, and then you say, therefore it's a globe, you have to prove how
You're asking me
know
specifically
it's
about the tilt of the earth.
Right, and you
don't even know how they came up with the
observation.
tilt of the earth, though. Do you know how they came up with the tilt of the earth?
What is the experiment that shows that we are on a ball that's tilted? Not an observation with a hypothesis. What is the evidence? What shows that we are on a globe that's tilted? What is the evidence? Because you stated it as a fact.
So if I go in a spaceship and I observe that the earth is tilted, that is not evidence.
Your model says you wouldn't be able to see that the earth was tilted in space. See, this is what I'm
Yeah.
saying. You don't know how it happened, but the way it is, the sun moves on an ecliptic. We have an analemma. And they saw that the sun moves through the sky at an angle, and they said, okay, well, if we assume we're on the earth as a sphere moving, that must mean the earth is tilted, causing the illusion that the earth or the sun is on that circuit.
So I want to make it clear that when Austin brings up every observation, he's not allowed to make that argument. So any observation he's ever made seeing the distance of anything or anything he's ever seen cannot be brought as an argument because somehow that's not evidence. Like, I don't,
No,
making sense.
No, you can do an experiment yourself, like snipers. You can do those experiments and with the scientific method and do all that. A hypothesis is not evidence, like just a theory. Einstein was famous for that.
Me observing the sun for 24 hours in the North Pole is not a hypothesis.
That matches the flat Earth prediction. Why wouldn't that work on a flat Earth?
Because it's also observed on the South Pole. The South
Okay,
Pole,
so
you can literally
you just immediately shifted over to a totally different claim.
It's the same. If you have half of the year where you can have total sunlight in the North Pole, and then the other half of the year you have total sunlight in the South Pole, that's proof of two different things: the sphere and the tilt of the Earth. Because the only reason you have the sunlight is because since the globe is tilted towards the sun while it's rotating, it still has daylight. But the South Pole doesn't because it's turned away from the sun. Whereas when you're on the other side, the South Pole is now getting 24 hours, and the North Pole does not have 24-hour daylight. This is observed by people in Alaska and even parts of Russia, and specifically in the North Pole and the South Pole.
No, it doesn't work on the South Pole.
Boys, let me just interject real quick, just to get us back on track, because that is a valid model. So I'm just going to ask you this, Pastor Shelley. Let's say that is true. Like what you just described, I understand. That makes sense. That is a possible model. I want to hear what your opinion is. Do you think it is possible that there is another possibility that explains the phenomenon you described, or does it have to be the tilted globe? Is that the only possible answer to that phenomenon you witness, or could it be another one? Are you capable of saying that it could be something else, or does it have to be what you just described?
Well, based on those, if we're just isolating just those simple observations, of course that doesn't give us the full model. Absolutely not. I think it's a combination of multiple evidences all pieced together that all tell the exact same story.
Cool, great. So you can admit that like observing something doesn't solidify your model, even if your model does work.
Well, again, if I see a literal picture of the sphere, if I go out into space and see this picture of the sphere, that single proof would be enough.
But you've never been in space, though. So you can't claim a spatial observation because you've never been in space.
That's true. I've never been inside the White House, but
we run into a wall here. We run into a wall because I've never been to Antarctica. I don't know what the Earth there. I can't prove a model, but we all have to admit that we either have to trust NASA's word, which is, some people have a right to not trust NASA, or we have to go to space ourselves, or we can admit we don't know. That is valid, and that doesn't make someone stupid. Okay, let's swing it over to Austin. Austin, I don't know, 2 minutes, make an argument, and then Pastor Shelley will go back, and then, we'll go from there. I think we're really accomplishing something here today, fellas. The people in my chat are saying that everyone's doing good. Everyone's being respectful. The key is respect, man. That's it. Like, as long as we're not yelling at each other and saying everyone's stupid and everyone's evil, this is a win-win. All right, 2 minutes. Austin, go ahead.
Yeah, so we see the sun move around us 360 degrees in the north, right? You can take trips and cruises to go see it. That's exactly what's expected on a flat Earth, right? Because the sun is just moving. The seasons on the flat Earth as the sun moves in and out. Now, the exclusivity would come with the south. Well, you can't book. There are millions of videos of the sun doing it in the north. There are cruises you can take. Can you take a cruise to go see the 24-hour sun in Antarctica? No. We've actually called and asked if none of them exist. Are there millions of videos of that one? No. Can you freely and privately explore there? No. You can only go to approved guided tours. I know a former NASA employee that was stationed there for 6 months said you never see the sun itself in the sky for 24 hours. And he was there during their summer, 6 months. So we would need actual verifiable evidence of that claim. Obviously, I don't believe in the claims about going to space either, because we've caught them faking things. And if I catch you faking things and you're a federal government agency, your kind of MO is to fake things, why would I, build my entire worldview upon you doing that? What I want to know is how we're shooting radio waves thousands of miles horizontally over large bodies of water when the curvature of the Earth should block the radio waves, right? That means that there is no curvature there blocking the radio waves. That now falsifies the radius value. So like all these other questions you have wouldn't really matter. So we can level with each other and agree that if we falsified the radius value, it would falsify the entire globe model. And then you can maybe address the way we falsified it. That's the most efficient way to have this conversation, not just be like, well, how would you explain this? How would you explain that? So yeah, we falsify the radius value with line of sight, long distance radio wave propagation.
Okay, well done, Austin. Let's swing it back to the pastor. Let's see how he wants to respond to that. Go ahead. You have 2 minutes.
Eratosthenes already proved the radius of the Earth and the circumference.
Oh, no, he
didn't need
didn't.
Any of these
Oh, my
fancy
God.
devices to figure that out.
Does anybody else see the
Again, that's
defeat in
not-
his eyes?
Let's appeal to authority. I'm going to start using the horn, okay? That's the
Use
appeal
the
to
horn.
authority fallacy.
Awesome.
When you're in a debate and you say, hey, a guy who's dead 2,500 years ago already proved all this. I don't have to argue it. That's literally a fundamental logic fallacy. Go ahead.
How's that
Sorry
not a
about
fact
that.
of history?
So was his argument.
It's called the appeal to authority fallacy, where you just say, this guy did it 2,500 years ago.
Did you
I
blow
don't
the
have to
horn
do
when
it.
he appealed to Michelson-Morey, disprove the Earth? His
I'll
movie?
do it
You
right
didn't
now.
blow
There
the
you
horn
go.
then. Okay.
Okay, I'll blow that horn. Michelson Morley. Well, the difference is the Michelson Morley experiment is a famous experiment that can be replicated.
So
And that is a
Eratosthenes is not a famous experiment that could be replicated? I don't know who I'm
Describe the
arguing
experiment.
with. Why can't I argue with Austin? Because
I'm setting the tone.
you're not
I mean,
you're
you
being
just said
very
you feel-
biased here, and you're not even being
I
fair.
apologize.
That's a
I
complete.
apologize.
you're
I will take a step back. I will take a step back. You have to. I will not interrupt again. I was just saying that saying Eratosthenes did it is.
That's no
again,
different than the
it's all
argument that he
different.
made with
Start over
Michelson-Morey.
again.
Wait till everyone hears about
I
it.
didn't blow the
Austin.
horn when you said believing in a flat Earth is heresy. Okay, I've been very generous with the horn.
That's not
Okay.
ad hominem. It's my
It's
view.
heresy. It's heresy. So you're in a debate with someone that you believe is a heretic and stupid and crazy. And I did not
Heresy.
blow that damn horn.
That
I
was
want
the
you to know
poster
I'm
that I
very-
sent to both of you before the show. I mean, I didn't hide that. I've preached that. I can't go back and unpreach the things that I preached.
I can't unhonk my horn. So what the best we can do is I'll give you 2 minutes and I'll take a step back. Go ahead.
Can I just ask Austin, what was the first point that you brought up? I just want to remind myself.
Can't unhonk the horn.
You just diverted away from the radio waves. So radio waves
Sure.
falsify the radius value, and we want to talk about everything except for the radius value for some reason, but that's what always happens.
Again, I don't know that it matters if we focus solely on the radius when we have plenty of other proofs, specifically of the spherical Earth, or when it comes to the orbit, such as seasons. And again, there's so many different things that I would love to even just show on the screen. I don't know if we're allowed to do that now or whatever, but when it comes to observing things in Antarctica, it was brought up multiple times that you can't go there, you can't see it. There are people that have circled Antarctica. They took a voyage from the southern tip of South Africa and they circled the entire Antarctica and then sailed down into
Did they
Australia.
circle it or did they orbit? Did they orbit? I'm just kidding. Go ahead. Sorry. I
They
had to do
circled it, and so
Okay.
specifically, there's pictures, video. There's all the different information about that specific event. So again, all their side's going to say is that this is just fake. Everything's fake. Everybody's an actor. All of it's CGI. But it's just like there's so many people that are physically disproving their claims. There's a guy who doesn't have anything to do with this debate who literally filmed a 360 view of Antarctica, and you can watch the sun go around in a 360 view, which would instantly disprove their claim. So there's plenty of evidences. There's plenty of people that have pointed this out. It's just they want to ignore that evidence.
Okay, that's a valid point. Austin, how do you respond to the fact that there are people who have recorded a 24-hour sun and they've traveled the circumference of Antarctica and they put it online and they appear to be unbiased? What say you? 2 minutes? Go ahead.
Yeah, so I actually know all about. You have to look all into that trip and just map it on a plain Earth. It's not impossible on a plain Earth that they sailed in the south It's not like they could see Antarctica the entire time. That's not how it worked, right? So they assume the Earth's a sphere, and then they sail there. And actually, if you look at the trips that do that, the boats can max out at like 30 knots, and they're in races. But for some reason, when they're in the south, they're going 4 knots, and that would make perfect sense on a flat Earth as the distance is much greater, right? And so they're traveling further, and they're determining their speed based on distance over time, assuming it's shorter. So if you actually look deeper into those paths, it's actually kind of leans towards the flat Earth position. The 24-hour sun, I've always been very honest about that. You're right. If it's exactly the same as it is in the north, that matches the globe perfectly and not a flat Earth. Okay, but then they posted this video out there, and everyone went around, oh, flat Earth's over. We dissected it and saw that they looped it around. Actually, they added the beginning to the end and looped it back around, and we pointed that out, and everyone gaslit us. They didn't fake that. They ended up coming out and admitting, yes, we faked it because we didn't have the full 24 hours. The most popular one with a little watch on the ground where they go around, they got clouds in the sky with the mountains, was admittedly faked. And then we caught them faking another one, and there's only a couple that have ever been put there. All the government cameras that are out there, none of them get 24-hour sun in their video. They have to shut it down conveniently 8 hours a day. So there's actually a pretty gross lack of evidence for that.
Okay, I will hit back a little bit. One thing, a compelling argument against flat Earth is how many people would have to be in on it. So all the industries, all the people doing these videos, all the people doing the cameras, how would that be managed if they are intentionally deceiving? Because that is something that is a valid point. So if you have Pastor Shelley saying that you have people that go there and do this stuff, and then the answer is they admit they lied or they're caught lying, when that number gets big enough, how do they all, how are that many people lying and deceiving, and how is that managed? And that just seems like a nightmare to manage. So Austin, what say you? Or no, we have to, that's just a follow-up, then I'll kick it back, but I'm trying to be unbiased. It's a valid thing. How are they faking this? How are they deceiving? How would so many people be in on it?
Yeah, so most people believe the Earth's a globe. Almost no one's in on it. Like, yeah, if there was a really large amount of people lying, wouldn't be feasible. It would remain a lie. Right? Someone would spill the beans or whatever. Which actually, some astronauts even have come out and said, "We've never been to space. No one's going to space. They're lying, and the Earth's flat." Literal former Soviet astronauts. But the government, right? They have compartmentalization and NDA. So when it comes to NASA, I know NASA employees, they don't know anything. They just do their job. The amount of people that would actually have to be lying about this is a very small amount. No one doing the satellites would have to be lying because they put it up. They assume that the Earth's a globe when actually it's just a transform over a plane, et cetera, et cetera. And we can get into all the technicalities, which is what is needed to fully understand it. But long story short, if I found adoption papers and said, look, man, turns out that those aren't really my parents, and I told you my whole life's a lie, I was adopted, and then you say, but wait, is everyone in the church in it? Is everyone at the school in on it? I'd be like, no, man, they believe that those are my parents. Most people just think the Earth's a globe. Most scientists try to explain it within that assumption. The amount of people that would have to lie are very, very small amounts of people. Antarctica is very restricted. And then you get into the government compartmentalization, astronauts, sign NDAs, all former military, intel, et cetera. So it's incredibly feasible that just a few people in the government with NDAs would lie about the small little job that they do. Almost everyone else just believes the lie that pushes it.
Okay, thank you. We're going to send it back to Pastor Shelley. You have 2 minutes. What say you?
So the countries that
Sometimes it
claim
does, sometimes
they
it
went to the
doesn't. But
moon,
if the
the
light's
United
on,
States, Russia, China,
the
India,
door.
Japan, Israel,
Yeah,
USA,
yeah.
Luxembourg, South Korea, Italy, UAE, Mexico, and Pakistan. So they would all have to be in on the scam. 90 countries have satellites. At least one person within their government would have to know that. You have NASA, you have SpaceX. Red Bull actually had a guy jump from space, and they have videos of the globe.
Really?
You have Dude Perfect literally sent Kobe Cotton
He
up
did
into
us an
space,
immense
and you have the video. I can play the video right now, and they even ask him, and he clearly says that the Earth is not flat, it's round. Additionally, you have many companies making spacecrafts, satellite companies, airline companies, people who have traveled to Antarctica, scientists, physicists, and astronomers who I mean, how can you be a physicist that's studying the orbit, the tilt, and the rotation of the Earth regularly, and you're not even considering the fact that these are lies or something, or that it's flat? I mean, it's really just absurd, to say the least, to think how many people are not even questioning their own reality.
Fallacy.
And somehow Austin or other people just, they have this truth that none of these people care about. I mean, to me, it seems like you're attacking all these people as if they're just brain dead idiots. Because I just don't understand how I could be studying those models with all of, like, that's my career literally, and I don't get it. He brought up this adoption paper. But here's the thing: all you need is one person, one of these satellites, one of these individuals go up and take a picture of the Earth being flat, and then okay, maybe you have some evidence. You don't have any evidence, specifically when it comes.
I'm going to do a quick follow-up. Pastor Shelley, do you believe that the climate change models are true?
I think it's theoretically possible that there might be a slight elevation or decrease in the temperature globally, but that it's insignificant and that all of the propaganda attached to it's a lie.
So do you think all of...
No.
Oh, he was going to make a great point.
No, what happened?
That was going to be a
Oh,
great
we lost them all,
Friday.
not just Owen. Shit.
It's a lie.
Oh yeah, everybody lost.
So do you think all of...
He was going to make a great point.
There's
No fucking
Gleam.
way.
He was going to say, like, are they all in
Gleam
on
was
it?
the first guy to take
refreshing.
It's a
love
lie.
So do you think all of...
Seems like the people
yay.
that control things are like.
Oh no, they really
Shit.
lost it. Fuck, dude.
That's all right. We were toasting him.
This guy, I'm so upset because he didn't use scripture once, and not only that, all of his talking points were directly antagonistic of the book he says he believes in.
Yeah, that was rough. They need to see Stone's video. He mapped out the sun and the limit and all
Shut
that.
it
He needs to
down.
see it.
There's people talking about it that they shut it down.
Shut it down.
Is there any other link?
I mean, his service has been bad this whole time. They've been maybe fucking with him.
Maybe Owen Benjamin is also streaming it.
It was too good. It was too good. They're like,
a lie.
send in the block.
So do you think all of...
We gotta block this thing. He's getting to the point. Oh, he went straight to
No.
climate change. Fuck.
I'll check Owen's Telegram.
How many viewers does he get?
I'm looking.
2,500 on Rumble.
It was about 6,000 people.
Yeah, that's
What
bad.
the fuck, dude?
God,
Climate change and the feed drops.
Yeah, that's,
Hang on, we are back. We are coming back. Okay, that's what Ben the Baptist said.
Yeah, baby.
Okay.
cool.
Owen's
Thanks
chat
everyone
is...
for being here, listening on Aether Cosmology and yo.
Oh wow, they cut the stream. Okay, so they're
Yeah, they
probably
might
gonna
have to do a
another
new stream. What were you about to say, JT?
Owen Benjamin has 2,000 members in his like private saloon that I'm in, and it says here, frozen on climate change. Ironically, they broke Rumble. Too much gravy. Pastor Shelley pulled it because it was a disaster. Anyway, it's the same stuff we were saying.
Tap the channel, Biast. Baptist bias, right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I already
New
did.
one will come up.
Yeah,
Just hang right there. Just refresh that.
Okay. That's the old one, right? Yeah.
You said he pulled it? Or he's pulling out?
No,
The stream.
no, they're bringing it back.
collapsed. Oh, there you go. We got it.
Bitchin'.
Oh, he's by himself.
Oh, look, they got cut out too. Oh,
Let
so
me
now they're
message them.
so now it's just him, and then he's trying to bring Owen and Wits it back. Interesting.
Nothing to see here, folks.
I pulled the emergency fallout switch.
I wish I had a chance at the chapter.
All right back to climate change, right?
Oh, Wits
Sorry,
is back.
the internet
Owen's
just like
back.
died
Here
on
we
us. I
go.
don't know. Can you guys both hear us again?
Yeah. Are you there? Wait.
Sorry, our router just like died for some stupid minute. I apologize. about
No
that.
worries. I think this is going quite well. I'm enjoying it. Are you guys all having fun? Any criticisms for me? Am I being biased? You can be honest.
Yeah, it's at times there's been some inconsistencies,
he's
but
got him on
I
glitch.
think again, if Austin's up for it, I wouldn't mind going a little bit back and forth instead of just kind of a forced 2 minute. But it's either way.
Yeah. We can totally do that. I just want to. The follow up was on climate change models and how many countries have to be in on it. Because the point you made was about that, and also all the other parts of the Bible, because you've made the claim that it's heresy to believe the earth is flat, and then you have, Job 38 about, that we're on a seal of clay and all that stuff. I was wondering what your comments are with all the descriptions of the earth in the Bible that are not a ball. And is it a debate? Like, is it a debatable thing, or is this
I'd love to talk about any of those.
Go ahead. I'm not an expert on any of this stuff. I'm a Bible almost illiterate. I'm just following up with Job 38 about that we're basically on a seal of clay. Like, how does that fit with?
Yeah, I don't know if my production can pull up that graphic too, but there's this chart I've seen, and it says graphic too. It says like the flat Earth Bible verses, and it says it's like 200 different references, and they kind of appeal to all these different things. It's pretty small. You might zoom in just so they can at least see something. Scroll up maybe a little bit, but I think what you're bringing up, this is Job 38:13 verse 14. This clay under a ring seal, and I've heard that being brought up. The problem is that's just not, number one, that's not what the King James says. I don't even know what version that would even potentially appeal to. And even additionally, the second reference here, Isaiah 40 verse 22, is bringing up the Dead Sea Scrolls. The Dead Sea Scrolls doesn't even say disc, it says circle. So I think that there's probably some misinformation
Let's see what he does.
when it comes to verses and how they fit to this particular model. But we can pull up.
King James says, it is turned as clay to the seal, and they stand as a garment.
Yeah, so in Job 38, verse number 13, I want to make sure.
That's 14, I think. I think it's verse 14.
Yeah, okay. So,
Oh shit.
It's in verse 13, it says that it might take hold of the ends of the earth, that the wicked might be shaken out of it. It is turned as clay to the seal, and they shall stand as a garment. Now, in verse 14, it says as clay. The word as is an indication in the modern English language of a metaphor. So specifically, it's not bringing up something that's literal here. And clay...
Of course, but the earth isn't literally clay,
the metaphor is that it's a seal to clay, but the shape, it would be a circular plane.
Well, clay can be formed into any shape. You can have you could have a spherical pot. So clay is just simply going around and again, my hands, around the ring that's spinning specifically. But you can shape that clay however you want. It doesn't prove.
Yeah, but a seal is never a ball. And how do you have an end on a ball? Like how the ends of the earth, the corners of the earth.
Sure.
These things are. And I'm no expert. Not in a religious debate. But like those words, if you're gonna take hoog and the circle thing,
sure.
There's no end on a ball, and then the metaphor of a seal is never a ball. And so, is it a debate? Is it an opinion, or is it heresy to believe that is reference to not a ball?
Well, again, my view of heresy is just something that's wrong. But when it comes to
okay, cool. Oh, that's good. Cool.
When it comes to specifically what you're bringing up about the end of the earth, if we go to the coast, that's the end of Florida, or that's the end of the continent, right? So when we're talking about Earth can mean a few different things. Earth could be the entire planet. Earth could be just the dry land. It's described in Genesis chapter 1. Or Earth could refer to the people. And I think a lot of times the argument is missed because people are attributing the wrong definition for the word Earth when it's used. So when we talk about the ends of the Earth, we're talking about the corners and the edges of dry land as they basically end for a continent. So, of course, the ends of the, and we could look up tons of references of ends of the earth in the Bible, and this is very clear, talking about bringing people from the ends of the earth. On the most of these flat earth models that I've seen, they don't believe people live in the ends of the earth. But the Bible's clear that people do live in the ends of the earth because we're talking about the edges of the coastline. We're not talking about the planet itself as a shape because, of course, I agree, there's no end of a globe or a sphere, but the Bible doesn't allude to that.
Can I say a couple things about this? So,
yeah, you guys just go now. Yeah, go for it.
So Earth does mean land, right? And I think it's actually very profound for cosmology because what it's saying is he rose the land up out of the water, and that we're surrounded by water everywhere. directly antithetical to what they're claiming. But just to clarify, right, 38:14 specifically says the earth takes shape like clay pressed under a sill, and then its features stand out like garments. It's just like how they would seal letters. Kings would seal letters, and they would put their clay, stamp it down, seal the letter with their emblem or their crest. It's very specifically saying that it takes shape like that. And it says there's waters above. It says there's a firmament. It says that it's like molten looking glass. It says many things. This is basically to say that it's heretical would be saying that the prophets were heretics. The prophets clearly thought that Hebrew cosmology was true. This new idea that like somehow the Hebrew people didn't think that the earth was a stationary plane with a firmament over top of it with water above it has only somehow become a thing as an anti-flat earth type of push. But most people would say, well, yeah, that's what they thought, but they wrote from what they thought right at the time, what their limited understanding at the time, they wrote through that lens. But for sure, Messiah came, the Hebrew people thought this was what the scriptures said, because it does say that, right? I mean,
Can I ask what you mean when you say firmament? What do you mean? When you say firmament, what do you believe that is?
Yeah, it says the firmament. It says it's stretched out over top of the earth like clay, or like a tent, and where grasshopper inhabits within it. And it comes from rakia, beaten out, strong as bronze, and it's described as molten looking glass. So it's described as physically holding back water.
Do you believe the firmament is a physical thing? Like, is it a glass dome? Or I'm just curious what your opinion is.
I think there is something physical containing the earth. Yes, I don't know what it
is that what you call the firmament?
Yes.
Okay. So in Genesis chapter number 1, when the Bible says that the birds fly in the open firmament, what is that?
It actually says upon the open face of the firmament. So it actually, the actual words that the translation comes from tells you that they're flying upon the face of the firmament. And we know that the birds are in the lower heaven described in the scripture, right? So there's layers up, and the birds fly in this lower layer called heaven. There are multiple layers of heaven, and it's all within the firmament. It says it flies upon the face of it, which makes sense. You look up, you see the birds, the firmament would be behind it.
Well, I want to clarify, because in Genesis 1:20, it doesn't say that. It says the fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven. So the King James is saying that they fly in the open firmament of heaven.
Yeah, I'm not one of these people that think that the people that wrote KJV were somehow the arbiters of truth. The original word specifically says face. Of course, when you bring up that these people defined it a certain way, they believe the earth was a globe that flies through space. Of course, they're going to define the terms a certain way. I don't even want to argue too much about the scriptural part of it. I'm just going to say my stance is very clear. It's blatantly that the earth is stationary, immovable, and fixed. It has pillars. There's a firmament separating the heavenly waters from the earthly waters. Almost every scholar will agree. I'm not appealing to them.
Every scholar would agree with that?
That Hebrew cosmology was that the earth is an enclosed, immovable plane. Absolutely.
Can I show just some pictures of historical Bibles? Because frankly speaking, from the 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, and 19th century, we have drawings and Bibles from all of these centuries showing the spherical earth. So what you're saying is just, to me, just
That's
insane.
not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. Is all of those people would have told you, yeah, but the Hebrew writers back then, they were writing through the lens of what they knew at the time, and they thought they were taking Genesis literal to mean that there were literally waters above us that were being held back by a literal firmament, and that the windows of a firmament literally opened up waters, and that the earth was immovable and fixed.
Who are you quoting saying that?
That's what I mean.
Because the Bible's talking about clouds. When it talks about the firmament, and you can actually compare Proverbs chapter number 8 with Genesis chapter number 1, and it's clear that in day 2 of creation, God created the atmosphere, which is what's the firmament. Firmament just means space or expanse, and it's just talking about how the waters are separated where clouds were up above the firmament, and there's simply the oceans down below. So you have waters below the firmament, you have waters above the firmament, and the birds fly in between the clouds, which is in the open firmament. That's what the Bible teaches. That's what everybody that I've seen write about and talk about have seen, and that's what the pictures that I could show right now. I could literally show tons of pictures of people with the spherical earth in Bibles from the 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th century. So are all of those people,
like I said,
those people not believe in the spherical earth?
You're straw manning what I said. I didn't say I didn't believe in a spherical Earth. Okay, what I said was that the scriptures specifically say that it's not a spinning spherical Earth, and that the people
Wait,
that
I want
wrote
to
it, the
clarify.
prophets
You're saying
and the
you believe the
Messiah,
Earth is a
all
sphere.
adhered to Hebrew. What's up?
You believe the Earth is a sphere.
What? No. Why would I believe the Earth's a sphere and debate that it's not a sphere?
I thought that's
Okay, I
what
feel
you
like we're
just
getting
said.
a little off track here, boys. Let's
Yeah.
just and I'm not taking over. I'm just going to reset a little bit.
I thought he said that
Pastor
too,
Shelley
honestly.
has made a lot of points on Aristosthenes, and I've not heard Austin address that yet. Austin, would you like to? Are you familiar with the experiment? Can you explain it? How did Aristosthenes prove that we are on a ball Earth? I don't want to let you off the hook on that one.
Yeah. So that is like the Wikipedia story of how this was all settled. But when I brought up the falsification of the radius value, he said Aristophanes proved the radius value a long time ago. The way he supposedly did this, because there's only secondary documentation and the two documents actually contradict each other with different stories. That doesn't really matter because you can go do it now. Anyway, you put sticks in the ground. He used wells, and then there's a different story that they use sticks. It doesn't matter. And then the shadow that's cast from the sun, you can take those shadows, the angles at which the shadows are cast, and you can do the math. You can use spherical geometry to get a circumference. And of course, you get the radius from that. Now, obviously, in order to do that, you must use spherical geometry. So you have to assume the Earth's a sphere, and you also have to assume that the light rays are parallel, right? So the sun has to be super distant where the light rays are parallel, and then the Earth is a sphere to even begin to do the math to figure it out. Also, admittedly, right, that if you can't prove it unless you have many, many other data points, is what the mainstream will tell you. And he only used two. So like Neil deGrasse Tyson, and just to point out how accepted it is in the mainstream, we'll tell you, obviously with two shadows, it works perfectly fine on a flat Earth with a local light source, which is true. In fact, we've actually replicated it with like 100 different shadows. So long story short, he assumed that the sun was super far away and assumed there were parallel light rays, and then assumed that the Earth was a sphere to come up with the value, which of course doesn't prove it, because you can explain the same exact observations on a flat Earth. So I don't even know why but yeah, that's just what like the mainstream story is. So
Yeah, and didn't he believe the sun was 1 million miles away, not 93 million? Or something like that?
Yeah, it's just super far away.
I
It didn't
gotta-
even really make it specifically.
Pastor Shelley, do you believe in mainstream space, like trillions of stars, light years away, nuclear explosions? Do you believe in like the mainstream space or a different type of space? I just would like to know what you believe as far as what the stars are, how far away are they, stuff like that.
I'm sure that when it comes to our solar system specifically, I probably agree with most mainstream views is what's taught in public school and college and accepted. When it comes to distant stars, I guess I'm somewhat skeptical of the fact that we could know for sure exactly how far those stars are. But I'm not, like, it doesn't really change anything for me if they truly are as far as they claim they are. But, you know, I think it's impossible to know for sure exactly how far these, if it's something 1,000 light years away or even much further, what they claim, like, it's pretty much improvable in my opinion. We can only make hypotheses and predictions. And of course they do those and they seem to match what they suggest. So it is plausible in my mind, but I'm not going to sit here and say that it's for sure.
Okay, Pastor Shelley, is there any topic you want to explore more that you want to get back into? I know I pulled this out because it just felt like the bickering, I was just trying to refocus with the Greek guy. Is there anything biblically you want to talk about and go back and forth with Austin?
Well, I do want to bring up a couple other things that we haven't brought up, just some newer things.
Right.
But I do want to bring up the idea of solar eclipses specifically. And if possible, can I bring up graphic 17? Just because we recently had a solar eclipse in my part of the country. I don't know where you guys are located, but in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, we literally experienced a solar eclipse, and they were able to tell us exactly when it was going to come. They gave us the exact minute marker. They could tell us, and you can even see one of those plotted down there. But these solar eclipses are actually going in all kinds of different directions. And from most flat Earth views or models that I've seen, they kind of just have like a child's mobile where the moon just kind of going in this circular pattern. Well, that wouldn't fit these solar eclipses, nor does the flat Earth model give you any prediction as to tell you when these solar eclipses are going to happen. Whereas the heliocentric model
Ooh, he's
literally
about to
does
get
give you
destroyed.
these
Does he
predictions,
even
and
know
they're
how they
accurate.
predict
So
eclipses?
to me, that's not something that we just like made up. I really did see the solar eclipse. These pathways really do match reality. It's things that we've observed and seen, and they do fit with the heliocentric model. So I'm just curious from Austin's perspective,
don't.
you know, what he would say about these solar and lunar eclipses that we
Penumbra
observe.
zones aren't tapered. They're
That's a valid. Pastor Shelley brings up a valid point that the globe model
doesn't fit the model
can
at all.
make accurate predictions over time, which is a good point. And Austin, what is your answer as far as their ability to predict the eclipses? Go ahead. What say you?
Yeah, just real quick, I just want to say I just looked that up. It says the Earth in the open, expansive space. It says upon the face of the firmament. Like I said, everyone can go look that up. But eclipses, that the prediction of eclipses aren't exclusive to anything to do with the globe, right? It's not exclusive to the Earth being a sphere, nor of the Earth moving around the sun. It comes back, funny enough, from the Babylonians, the Chaldeans, like 2500 BC. You have the sterile cycle that was built upon before that. You can actually go to ADL.place. That's the Anti-Disinformation League, so it's the good ADL, and you'll
out,
find
Shane.
all of this mapped out on a plane. We can perfectly map out exactly when it's going to happen on a plane Earth, and the sun and the moon, they have their specific cycles. They even change like relative positions throughout time, and it's just a cycle that repeats. And in both situations, your prediction gets more and more accurate the closer it gets to the time of the eclipse. So actually, if you paid attention, they changed the path, or the locations of the path of the eclipse like 3 or 4 times in the weeks leading up to the eclipse, even in like the mainstream perfect model and all this stuff, right? Because it isn't about the model, it's about the sun and moon. They have a cycle that there's an eclipse cycle that we can narrow down over the course of thousands of years. And so yeah, all of that can, like exactly when the eclipse will be, all of that is exactly the same regardless of if you think the Earth's a globe or flat, or whether if you think it's moving or it's not moving. Uses specific observational pieces of data that aren't exclusive to either one of them. So it's a misnomer. Everyone can go to the ADL.place and you can see it all mapped out and predicted.
So is that
Well, that's quite a claim. Let me just do a real quick follow-up. That's quite a claim, and I'd love to be able to look that up like I did definitions, because if they really did change, because I think a globe argument is their predictive ability. Like, it does appear that they have this model that can make accurate predictions over time. And I had no idea. I can't verify this right now. If anyone can, did they actually change the eclipse stuff over the weeks? I can't validate or not validate. Anyway, go ahead, Pastor. I'm sorry.
Well, they definitely update things within minutes. They say like, oh, we can predict things within 5 minutes or so. And then as we get closer and closer, they can narrow it down all the way to seconds. So there is a little bit of a shift, but they knew the specific date and around the approximate time way long ago. In fact, there are charts that can show you specific solar eclipses are going to happen decades from now. Not just like the next 10 minutes or 2 weeks. They can tell you exactly. But from Austin's viewpoint, I mean, is NASA using y'all's flat Earth model to make these predictions, and or
Yes.
are they right and they're using, I mean, are they just faking it? They're just making up this heliocentric model for these predictions? Like, I'm just kind of curious how they're coming to these conclusions, because you say all these things are faked by them and they're lying about all this stuff, but they are making accurate predictions about these eclipses. And it wasn't even NASA. It's not like NASA's the first one to predict these eclipses. These eclipses were predicted in the 1600s, 1700s, 1800s. I mean, we've already known these cycles and these patterns, and they're not subscribing to a flat Earth model specifically. So I want to know, are the people that are making these predictions, are they using your flat Earth model, a geocentric model, or are they using the heliocentric model?
Yeah, they literally use the geocentric model. So they use what's called an Earth-centered, Earth-fixed coordinate system, because the observations happen from the Earth. And no, they weren't just done in 1600s. Like I said, they were done in 2500 BC by the Chaldeans. It's called the Saros cycle. And they were a flat Earth geocentric civilization. It isn't exclusive to either one. They've reverse engineered the globe from what we see in the sky. But like I said, the predictions aren't exclusive to any belief. And also, just to make sure you guys know what I'm saying, the date is pretty well known. To get to more narrow of exactly when in that day it'll happen, you have to get closer to the actual time because of the periodicity of the sun and the moon over time. I'm talking about they changed the location. So like the path of totality, they were actually narrowing it down and moving it over by a few miles over leading up to that moment. And this was just well known and accepted in like mainstream articles. You could look it up. Now, it wasn't like hundreds of miles. But my point is just this idea is that if there's a specific sphere with a specific size and we know where everything is and we're going to be able to tell you where the eclipse is, that isn't how it works. The eclipse is based on the periodicity of the sun and the moon. It's been mapped out since 2500 BC. It doesn't have anything to do with the Earth being a globe. And in fact, they use a geocentric coordinate system at NASA with the Saros cycle. And actually, the guy that does eclipses for NASA for like 20 years is on the record explaining that they have to use a geocentric coordinate system. They do the same thing with their satellites as well, side note. So,
can I clarify?
Ironically, the answer to your question is yes.
Yeah.
So do you think the ECEF is accurate?
Well, no, because typically the ECF is using a sphere, right?
Exactly.
So I don't believe in a sphere, but the sphere isn't really required. But the point is that even in the current model, there's a kinematic and dynamic equivalence, which is just a fancy way of saying either the Earth can be stationary in the middle and we can see everything the way we do, or it can be moving and we see everything the way we do. They use the ECF because it's the most convenient, and I would say, yeah, it's more accurate because the Earth is in the center. I wouldn't believe in the sphere part, of course, but.
So if you look up the ECI or the ECEF on Wikipedia and you just read what they claim about it, specifically in the ECI article, it'll say that ECF is fixed in respect to the Earth's surface and its rotation, and then rotates with respect to the stars. And specifically, the ECF model is using the coordinates of a sphere to calculate these specific items. So I think it's crazy to me for you to appeal to the ECF, which is using a sphere as its mathematical calculation, and then claiming that somehow that it would be a flat Earth. I mean, that doesn't even jive. If they're making these models based on a sphere and they're accurate, I still don't see from your viewpoint or your worldview how they're coming up with these accurate models. It seems like you're cherry picking.
I didn't
What's the straw
say
man?
that it was. You asked me if they use a geocentric model. I said, yes, actually they do. And in fact, they use a Saros cycle. It doesn't matter if you think there's a sphere or not. It came from a flat Earth civilization. I answered your question. I didn't say that was evidence that it's flat. I said that it's a geocentric model. But to answer your question succinctly, you can do it either on a plane or a globe. It's just what's called a transform. So it's just a projection. It's a transform, and it would be an ellipse over top of a plane, or you would have the circles in different directions around a globe. Okay, so you can transform that just like you can transform satellite trajectories, and then you just have all of basically the flower of life over top of a plane. So what a coincidence, a geocentric plane would have all the planets moving in perfect, flower of life trajectories. Same for the sun and the moon. So like I said, this is not exclusive evidence either way.
Yeah, again, I don't.
Okay. Go ahead.
I don't feel like that answered the question, because my question wasn't necessarily centered around that particular nuance. It was more on the idea: are they using a geocentric model? Which, again, like, they're using the word geocentric is in reference to something, right? Geocentrism is different than just saying something's geocentric. Geocentric just meaning that you're focused on the Earth specifically. But geocentrism is the idea that the Earth is not moving in the solar system and everything's moving around it. Those are two different points. So when it comes to your viewpoint, just because they use the word geocentric doesn't mean that they don't believe the Earth is moving. In fact, the model is based on the Earth moving specifically. So the ECF is based on the Earth moving and it being a sphere. So to me, your answer would be that they actually are using a heliocentric model, even though obviously that word is used twice. So I don't think that you're understanding the question that I'm asking.
All right, you're saying I'm not understanding it, but you just made the claim that the Earth-centered, Earth-fixed coordinate system is about the Earth moving. It specifically is not.
It's based on the rotation and the orbit of the Earth, yes.
No, it's based on a sidereal rotation. You believe is in the Earth is the Earth-fixed coordinate system and moving around it. It's then transformed to a Earth-centered inertial frame, which tries to begin to make corrections for the spin. And it's so bad to have the seasons taking place every 24 hours. Okay, so the fixed coordinate system is just that, and your model still, man, is because according to relativity, everything occurs on the Earth as if the Earth's in a state of rest. From the Earth, it's always going to look like we're stationary. So to map everything out, you can just treat it like it's stationary. Motion is relative.
Sorry, you're breaking up.
Austin, your audio is getting a little clicky. We'll come back for your point. I understand your point was you're making a very good point. We'll give your audio just a little rest. Maybe it'll buffer. Someone in my chat wants the good pastor to explain compass made a circle upon the face of the earth and how that can exist on a ball.
I just want to make sure I understand. Are we bringing up the Isaiah 40:22 verse again? Is that what you're saying?
I don't know. Someone just asked me to ask you that.
Well, I do want to clarify. So the Earth. Let me make sure I'm getting this in the view. The Earth-centered, Earth-fixed model is specifically saying when there's a star that's out here in the distant light, even though the Earth is spinning, that starlight traveling towards the Earth doesn't change. And so they calculate where on the sphere that specific point would be hitting our sphere, even though the Earth is continually spinning. But that model is specifically based on the rotation of the Earth. So it's silly to me to then make some kind of a geocentric argument or geocentrism argument. When it comes to the circle of the Earth, I believe that means sphere. But even if you took it as a literal circle, the outward crust of the Earth would be a circle. And of course, God doesn't sit in a two-dimensional world. He sits in a three-dimensional world. And I have a few pictures if we want to show them on the screen real quick, but there's a lot of Bibles that literally have Jesus Christ sitting on the sphere of the earth from the 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th century. We could show, I think they're around the images 55 and plus, but if you want to show any of those images, you can show all kinds of measurements where he's measuring the sphere with a compass specifically. I think there's one that actually even shows him sitting. Yeah, go to image 80,
no way
62.
they got Jesus measuring the globe.
Image 62.
What?
Yeah, here's him literally sitting on a sphere. And again, some of these are, obviously kind of symbolic or metaphorical in a sense, but at the same time, they are believing that the earth was a sphere. In Genesis chapter number 1, it shows the compass, which is a reference to Proverbs chapter number 8 specifically. And so, to say that Christians have historically believed in the flat earth would be gaslighting, because there's plenty of evidence to suggest that Christians for the last several hundred years have all recognized.
It's like, look, it's definitely a globe.
So you're making a claim that all Christians have recognized the spherical earth for centuries now. That's
Not
actually
all.
more of a
No, I wouldn't say all, because right now there's Christians that don't. I'm just saying that.
Exactly.
I'm just saying that
is a
Christianity in large.
And is that Jesus
there's
holding up
lots
the
of
two,
evidences
like
and
Baphomet, bro?
proofs
Come
of
on,
Christians
bro.
believing in a spherical
Sorta,
earth
yeah.
throughout history.
Most Christians have been deceived on
So why did they arrest Galileo for the? Is Witzett's mic still using? Is it working? Are you back? I'll pass it over to you as
Sorry.
soon as you're back. I can't hear you.
Yeah,
no audio.
Galileo was burnt for
No worries.
talking about
Because the reference that, appeal to consensus is what you're doing. I didn't do it. I'm trying to be a nice person. But the whole everybody agrees with
horn is
me,
so
all
funny.
Christianity agree. I mean, that's not.
Well, just because someone believed it was a sphere doesn't mean it's true. I'm not trying to say that.
Exactly.
That's not my argument.
And historically, the Catholic Church, which arrested and punished people for claiming it was not a geocentric Earth. Like, according to mainstream, none of us can know if Galileo even existed. I totally get that. But, to make the claim that Christianity has always backed the globe heliocentric isn't really an argument. I mean, I get it. I think flat earthers can be annoying, and, you don't know God unless you're a flat earther, and everyone's always been a flat earther. I get it, bro. I'm totally with you on that. But that argument, there is it's not really provable.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah.
Word. By the way, just to clarify, I said
Austin,
the
what do you have to
prophets.
say about, you made a couple big points. One is the observations require a ball because the movement of the stars, when the light comes down, it's because of the spinning of the ball. Okay, you can address that and also address the historical nature of Christians all believing in the heliocentric model. Go ahead.
Yeah. So to clarify, I said the prophets and the authors of the scriptures adhered to Hebrew cosmology. That's a fact, right? So to invoke like 1600 interpretation, of course, the globe had started to, get kind of take over parts of the earth, actually, not all of it. But so that's all I was saying is that the actual authors of the scriptures adhered to Hebrew cosmology, and that's pretty undeniable and actually not even disputed in the academic world at all. As for, I did kind of address what you followed up and said, and that what you're talking about is called sidereal rotation, and that's the stars rotating. And in your model, that the stars look like they're rotating around us, but it's just an illusion because we're rotating, making it look like they're moving. Okay, so they're just using sidereal rotation, and the ECF actually treats it like the stars are actually moving and that the Earth is fixed. That's why it's called Earth-centered, Earth fixed. If the Earth is in the center of the universe in any model, it can't be moving because everything's moving in relation to it. The stillman for your model is we just do that because it's simpler, it's easier, it's what it looks like for us on the Earth anyway. So we use that coordinate system. So just to clarify that there is nothing exclusive to the Earth spinning, and again, nothing exclusive to it being a ball. You can transform that over to a plane. It's just called a transform, and it would be ellipses over a plane, and it's a projection. So pretty simple stuff.
So do the stars move in the sky?
Great.
What'd you say?
Do we observe
Do the
stars
stars
moving
move
in the sky?
Yeah, we see the stars move in the sky. Yeah, and you think that we don't.
So then your explanation of the Earth-centered Earth fix would make no sense because the Earth-centered Earth fix is saying that it's in the exact same position all the time, which makes sense if the Earth is actually rotating. So we see the movement, but they're saying it's fixed on a specific point of the sphere. So there's a specific point of the sphere that starlight is hitting all the time, but even though the Earth is rotating, so we see movement, but it's hitting the sun, it's hitting the Earth at the exact same point. That's why you have an Earth center, Earth fix model. You don't even understand what the model is explaining. So
you're projecting, clear. Man.
I'm not projecting. I'm just saying that's the point.
Thank you.
Sorry, I just don't even know what you're. I mean, this is. I want to be nice here, but in your own model,
I feel like this is all going great. I'm loving the lack of ad hominem. It's creeping up a little bit. What do you say we do 5-minute closing statements? We talk about if we learned anything. Do you guys want me to take questions from the chat, your Rumble chat, or
we can take some questions?
Like this is okay. So in the Rumble chat, I will check out the questions in between, cortisol chasing, and let's do 3 minutes. Let's do 3 minute. You guys each do a 3-minute closing statement. If any aspect of the other person's argument changed your opinion, because I think that's always good. We're always learning here in the world. And I also just personally want to say, I think everyone did great. Much love to your mother. I was just trying to make a point. I have nothing against your mom, obviously. All right. So since, who went first? Austin went first? Yeah. Let's kick things off with Pastor Shelley doing 3 minutes closing argument if he learned anything or his points, to reiterate his points. Go ahead.
Just being honest, I do not feel like I learned anything new. I feel like the arguments for both sides are pretty well established, so I don't think that either side's probably ignorant of any of the points we were going to make. But I do believe there's thousands of proofs for a spherical Earth or a heliocentric model, or when we talk about the tilt of the Earth. And one of those is the fact that half the Earth is always lit up, which is not shown on a flat Earth model. The North Pole and the South Pole both have seasons with total daylight, which is observed by many different witnesses. There's plenty of videos of the sun never setting in the South Pole, which would for sure disprove the flat Earth view. There's an abundance of just witnesses in general of the spherical Earth when we talk about all the astronauts and the space programs and all the individuals involved with our specific viewpoint. There are literal videos and live streams from the ISS 24/7 where you can literally just watch the spherical Earth 24/7, live streams all the time. I guess they'd have to be faking all of that, which is thousands of hours of footage. The Earth's shadow on the moon is super clear. You can see this from different vantage points in different areas, and we can see the shape of the spherical Earth through the shadow on the moon from those eclipses. The predictions of the solar and lunar models also are compatible with the heliocentric model. The experiments from Eratosthenes can still be done today and could still get the exact same calculations of the circumference of the Earth. And if he did believe that the Earth was spherical and moving, that would just be proof that people already believed that at that time as well. You can sail across the sea. NASA has plenty of photos. You can go online right now and find non-fisheye lenses views of the spherical Earth. I could show you the images in the stream today. There's videos from other space programs, whether it be Dude Perfect, Red Bull, even SpaceX has plenty of other images and pictures of the spherical Earth. The seasons don't make sense on a flat Earth model. They only make sense on the tilted orbital model. When we talk about the path of the sun, we see it going up and down, which is the Bible describes. It doesn't get further away and come closer. Additionally, the Bible was literally sent to the moon. So the King James Bible is actually sent to the moon. And in Apollo 8 mission, they actually read Genesis 1 as soon as they went up into space, which I find really fascinating. Leap years are also another evidence of the fact of the heliocentric model. Construction of large bridges, the tops are actually further away than the bottoms.
Oh, wow.
Stars are upside down. There's races around Antarctica. The Bible is compatible with these views. And I believe it's really just someone denying a lot of clear evidences when they have a flat Earth view. I think that there's plenty of evidences out there. And I wish that people would appeal to true science and what the Bible says.
Great. And we're also going to take questions in the chat. And, let's pivot a little bit. I have people text me saying they're loving this and we should go a little longer. So before we do Austin's closing and we take a couple more questions, there's one in the chat from Dread Matt. How do we see the same constellation 6 months from now if on a globe you'd be facing 180 degrees than you are now? I don't fully understand the question, but hopefully you guys do.
Owen doesn't.
Want me to go to the next one? Do you guys get that
I think
one?
Austin's got to give his closing, right? We give him opportunity to give closing statement.
So let's do that. So Austin, we'll give you 3 minutes, do a nice closing.
Jesus Christ.
And then we'll do a little more back and forth, some questions. I'm getting really good feedback. I'm not going to lie. I mean, your chat, people don't love me. Some people are saying that I am a real piece of shit. But in general, I think this is going really well. All right, Austin, go ahead. 3 minutes, go.
So I'm actually going to run through some of the stuff you just said because respectfully, what always happens is someone can go Google ways we know the Earth is not flat, and then they'll just kind of repeat these arguments. But what happens is if you look further into each one of them, similar to the JQ, you'll find out that, well, when you get more evidence, you understand more things. So the ISS is not 24/7. It cuts off all the time. We've caught them faking tons of things. You brought up other space agencies. I actually just saw a video today of the China Space Agency showing the Earth, and it was completely flat horizon. Completely flat. So now all of a sudden, I'm guessing we'll throw China out or it won't count. Felix Baumgartner showed the curve of the Earth he wasn't anywhere close to space. He was only like 180,000 feet up. You wouldn't see the curvature of the Earth in your model from there anyway. Admittedly, it was literally a GoPro sponsorship. Shadows of eclipses actually debunked the globe model because if it was a geometric alignment of three spheres, which is called a syzygy, then as the sphere moves in front of the other one and casts a shadow onto a third spherical object, the shadow actually goes from being a circle to an oval back to a circle. It actually takes a partial S wave. You can replicate this basic geometry. It's because the shadow isn't distributed evenly because the surface that the shadow's on is curving and part of it's further away from the other part. So you can't even replicate those eclipses with three spherical objects. You would have an S-wave shaped shadow. So the eclipses actually debunk it, as do selenilian eclipses where the sun and moon are both above the Earth during the eclipse, which is a geometric impossibility. I covered the eclipse predictions. It goes back to 2500 BC. It isn't exclusive to the Earth being a globe. That's a flat Earth civilization. We, again, go to adl.place. You can see everything mapped out. And then Eratosthenes, you brought that back up, but I explicitly explained that that isn't exclusive to a spherical Earth. Earth, you can do the same thing on a plane Earth. If it's a local light source, a local sun on a plane, you get different angle shadows as well. You have to assume the Earth's a sphere, assume that there's a distant sun, assume the parallel light rays coming from that sun, and then do the math with that assumption. Dude Perfect, whenever they supposedly sent these private trips up to space, they like one of the passengers came back and said, I thought we were going to be high enough to really see like the Earth and everything, but we obviously weren't. And it's a glorified vomit comet. Basically, they float for like a couple minutes. I can go do that in a plane. Nothing special about that. And actually, the Bible says the sun goes in and out is actually what it says. And so I think I have about 30 seconds. Yeah. So I'll just finish by saying this. I know this sounds crazy, and I get it, but I can assure you that the people that say that the Earth is flat, it wasn't because they wanted to. They fought it. It was uncomfortable. No one wants to publicly state it. Just diligently search out the truth. I have no beef with you if you don't think it, but just go look for the evidence. You may be surprised. And we can't just blindly hand our worldview over to people that hate us. So I encourage everyone to look a little further. You may be surprised.
Okay, so chat, I will take your questions, and Pastor Shelley, you've earned it. Let's take off the ad hominem cuffs. If you want to talk a little shit, let's do it. Because that was extremely enjoyable. Chat, ask direct questions. Don't get me wrong. This framed as a question might. So Owen moderates about as well as he denies being a homosexual. You see, that's not a question. And I know some of you guys are like, he won't address the chat. Why is Owens okay? Again, we're doing a flat earth debate. And so if you have a question for Pastor Shelley, I'm sorry if I said Anderson, I'm literally retarded. I've been up since like 5 in the morning. If you have a direct question, just put it in the chat and ask a question. This debate is not about me and whether or not I'm secretly a gay. Here we go. North Pole is the center. So if anyone has any questions.
So you're saying it's possible.
What? That it's a globe, or that I'm secretly a homo?
That
I'm secretly a homo? Not possible. But I do understand why sometimes people think that. I'm really good at the piano, and, you know, sometimes I dress very oddly. All right. What do we got here? Owen, please have Austin explain Genesis 1:20 and the face of the firmament translated as in the open firmament in the KJV. Austin, go ahead.
Yeah, like I said, the KJV is consistently translated with, certain biases. If you go look at the actual Hebrew, it says like upon the face of the firmament. That's what it says. You can go look it up, and you can just use Bible Hub for that, right? Bible Hub, go look it up. So yeah, basically it's saying that you see the birds upon the face of what's up above it, the firmament. So if properly translated, it is not what it says in KJV, and perfectly comports with the rest of the description, which is that there's a physical container over the earth called the firmament.
Is there a Bible?
Pastor, would you like to respond? And bear in mind, ad hominem's open now, so don't be afraid.
Yeah, is there a Bible version you would say this is accurate?
I read what's called the Scriptures version, but I think men are fallible, right? I also don't think you have to get everything perfectly right or the Creator hates you. But I use stuff like Bible Hub. I think it's very convenient. We have the internet. You can go look at the original languages, see all the different translations. I think that the Greek Septuagint is much more reliable. It seems like some Jewish people got a hold of things and changed it. And anyway, no, I wouldn't say there's a infallible translation in English. No, certainly not.
Do you speak Hebrew or Greek?
No, but that's.
Well, before we get into that, Pastor Shelley, we have a really good question here. If Owen is not a queer, why does he act and dress like one? Can anyone answer that?
Anyone answer?
That is a good question.
It's not about you.
All right, does anyone know if
it's cover pretty good, making babies as a cover, I guess.
I just think it's so funny that people are like, so if you're not a homo, then what's up with all right. Does anyone know if it's a sin to listen to flat earth nonsense? I'm pretty sure this falls under thoughts of foolishness. Pastor Shelley, is it a sin to listen to flat earth nonsense?
Well, the Bible says the thought of foolishness is a sin, so any stupid thought would be a sin. And if the earth is a sphere, which is my position, then believing it's not would be stupid. Dude. It would be idiotic, and I've preached that many times over because I don't want people to subscribe to things that are stupid. The Bible says the simple believeth every word, And I don't want people to believe stupid things. I don't want people to discredit the Bible or Christianity or conspiracy theories. And I feel like this specific movement denies a lot of reality, and so it is stupid. I feel like a lot of people that are flat earthers usually smoke pot and do a lot of hallucinogenic drugs, and it's probably just a result of that.
Me on that.
Okay,
Oh, I wanna
Citizen
smoke
Lens
this
with a
guy.
super chat. I will put those above the other ones because that means you're contributing a little bit to the pastor's flock. Does Shelley believe the pictures of the dark side of the moon are real? Why is the Earth so much larger in frame compared to the moon than the Earth photoed from the surface of the moon itself?
Yeah, I know what they're bringing up. So specifically, there's a picture from, I believe, Apollo 8 mission where it's essentially got that iconic half Earth view, and then it's just kind of showing the little bit of the surface of the moon. And then they have a really scaled out framed view where they show like a much larger Earth and moon. But again, that's just simply perspective because the moon got a lot bigger as well in that particular frame. So it's really, there's no problem whatsoever. They're just not understanding perspective or where the picture was taken from. Obviously, if you take a more zoomed out view, the Earth is going to get larger.
Okay. Owen, please
just
have
focus.
Pastor Shelley answer how the Earth can be orbiting the sun if the Earth was made day 1 and the sun day 4. Joshua, sun stopped. Isaiah, sun moved backwards. Why do you think the prophets of the Bible did not say the Earth moved, and they said the sun moved? And how did the Earth revolve around something that hadn't been created yet? What say you?
I would say the first question that the Earth was not orbiting the sun before it was created. So I don't believe that it would have been, obviously. And then secondly, he's bringing up in Joshua where the sun and the moon stood still. Specifically, it says that the moon was in the valley of Ajalon. And I, of course, would have subscribed this as being a miracle. It doesn't matter what model you have. It's obviously a miracle because God even said specifically there was no day like it before or after. From a spherical heliocentric viewpoint, all God would have had to do was simply just stop the rotation of the Earth, and the sun and the moon would have stopped as far as their movement specifically. So, of course, this would be a miracle. If God stopped the rotation of the Earth for a 24-hour period of time, both the moon and the sun would have stood still as far as their respective positions to the Earth. So there's no problem with that, except for obviously it's a miracle. There's no way to describe this as a natural phenomenon.
But why do you think they didn't say that?
They both wanted.
But why do you think they didn't say that the Earth stopped spinning, though? Why would they say the sun stopped?
Well, it's an earthbound perspective, so everything's from an earthbound perspective. So the sun stopped as far as its circuit around the Earth from an earthbound perspective or viewpoint. That doesn't. It doesn't really matter how you want to word it. It's just from everybody's perspective.
Earth.
If I'm in a car and I'm moving, and someone's
hilarious.
standing outside of the car, I have my perspective in the car, and I'm moving towards them, and from their perspective, you know,
Call Bennett.
they're standing at rest.
Yeah,
so
right?
you know, you could look at it from two different angles. If they slam,
But
on the
wouldn't they say
brakes-
the car stopped? Like, would they say the tree stopped moving if you stopped the car?
You could say it any
doesn't
way.
matter. All
It does,
right.
you could say it from either
Yeah,
perspective.
exactly. Yeah. All right. How do you explain? I don't know if this is true. This is 2, but Preston throws in a 5, so he gets a little priority. Even though a lot of people want to know why I suck so bad. How do you explain the phenomenon of star trails in long-term exposure photographs, which show circular patterns centering around the South Pole, as this directly debunks the flat Earth model? Austin, what say you?
Yeah, I explained that earlier. It can be replicated with like a dome and basically just reflecting out. You also see crepuscular and anti-crepuscular rays. It takes some explaining, but like the sun can set in the west, and this is wild. And so you'll see the sun setting in the west, and then there will be rays converging on the horizon in the east at the same time, looking like there's a sun, like a light source over there. That's because that's how our perspective works. It literally has a limit. We have a limit in all directions. Basically, we have a dome of vision, and everything towards the edge of that starts to converge and compress. And so it's literally a real thing called crepuscular and anti-crepuscular rays. So you can't really deny that it happens. And if that was going to be applied to the sky over top of a plain Earth, it'd be the same thing. And again, when they claim that it's going south, actually, they use major magnetic declination corrections. On the globe, it needs to be directly south that we're seeing it, right? But why do we have to correct 150 degrees, 80 degrees, 90 degrees to claim that we're seeing it in the south? So it's not exclusive to a globe Earth. Earth, I do get that if you believe the corrections are correct, you'd be like, oh, isn't that convenient? It matches the globe. It doesn't until you correct the cardinal direction with declination, and it can be explained with vision, like crepuscular and anti-crepuscular rays. So, yeah, there you go.
Okay. Any response? Good, Pastor? And I'm trying to find more.
Yeah, that was
more good
really
questions.
stupid. And of course, the Earth is orbiting the sun, and so
Try
that's
Euclidean
why you
versus
have to make
curvature of
certain
space.
adjustments to when you look at these things. But like the commenter said, obviously the view of these stars in the South Pole totally disproves the flat Earth.
Dude, the orbiting the sun has nothing to do with magnetic declination corrections, bro.
It has to do with the observation of stars, which was what the question was about. So of course, you're strong.
We have another we have another question from Bobby O. Jimbo. How do flat earthers explain Ecclesiastes 1:6 when it says that wind goes around the earth towards the south, then back to the north?
Who's the question for?
I'm guessing Austin because it contradicts
Yeah, I think
flat
it's
earth.
for Austin.
Yeah.
Yeah, so why would that be a problem? I mean, all the evidence actually shows that we're basically in a torus field. So if you actually look at the paths of the planets, they all make a perfect torus field geometry, the flower of life that we see everywhere. And so there would be a central portion that's a vortex, right? And so you would have a patterns moving in and out and relative to the torus field. That's actually what we see when we map out the magnetic flux data. That's what we see with the wind patterns mapped out on the Earth. We actually see them all moving around in the vortex motion. So that's no problem. Actually, I would say that the problem is where it says that the winds come from the ends of the earth and it's the windiest place on the earth, and that there are corners where angels have something to do with the wind would be a problem. So people really like to pick and choose where the Bible is literally talking about the earth, apparently. But anyway, the north-south thing works perfectly on a plane earth. So
There's another one. This is for the pastor. Bible Matrix said he used a compass to draw a circle upon the face of the earth. Face equals flat. Spheres have 0 faces. And then he says something mean about the pastor that I'll skip because I'm still following the ad hominem thing. Job 38:14 is an analogy. That's not exactly a question, but you did super chat. Okay, Pastor, can you please name which Baptist confession of faith states you must believe in one another as shape of the earth in order to be baptized? You're mistaken about what a heresy is, Pope Shelley. Ooh, that's very aggressive.
So there's not a confession that subscribes to that. So it's just a straw man argument. But specifically, you know, I do have a doctrinal statement on our website. It doesn't bring up the flat earth. I would never throw somebody out of church for believing in the flat earth. But I would take offense to anybody teaching false doctrine. And if someone's teaching a bunch of heresy and told not to teach that, then they may be excommunicated from church. But that's the point of church. Church should be a group of people that all agree and have similar viewpoints. Otherwise, it's not a church. It's just a club or something. So
if someone was teaching a different view of the clay seal or some of these other interpretations, you would kick them out of the church?
If someone was going around to all of my church members trying to tell them that they believe the earth is flat, and I kind of addressed it with them and said, hey, that's not what we believe here, and you can't, you know, go around just teaching people all this stuff, and they continue doing that, then yes, I would potentially throw them out of church, but that wouldn't be limited
sounds
to that
kind of cultish.
viewpoint. Well, if you don't have any doctrinal integrity, then you don't have a church. I mean, what's the point of
Well,
having
Mac and
a
Check
church?
says, to the pastor God, oh, that's insulting. I'm trying not to be insulting.
Hey,
All
Owen,
right,
can I say something real quick? I just want to know what he thinks about this real quick, because this is like the elephant in the room for me, right? So you guys call it Zionism. We're on page there. ADL attacks you. You automatically get points for that. That means you're probably saying something based, right? That's cool. What do you think about the fact that the MMX showed that the earth wasn't moving, and then they bring in Einstein, who gives Jewish mysticism to the world and says that time slows down and the ruler contracted, but looks like it's the same size. Trust me, bro. And it made the earth look like a stationary. It's Jewish mysticism saying that the creator created a giant illusion to deceive us into the earth being stationary. Do you actually believe that?
Well, to address your earlier part of the question, first of all, you kind of claim that this Hebrew cosmology or these Jews believe that the earth was flat, and then you get mad about other Jews. So it seems inconsistent. I don't really care about Einstein because people believed in the spherical earth before Einstein ever even came into existence. Yeah, of course, I believe that the modern day Jews are the synagogue of Satan and that they lie about all kinds of different things. But the vast majority of Jews today probably believe that the earth is a sphere. I would assume that most of them probably would subscribe to that. When it comes to all of the things that Einstein said, you know, I don't really know. It doesn't really matter to me. Special relativity is claimed to be evidenced consistently in satellites falling towards Earth. So, you know, I don't have any reason to doubt that claim. So perhaps it's true. Again, it doesn't really matter to me because it's infinitesimal measurements that you have to approach the speed of light to really even have a dramatic effect of special relativity. But when it comes to Jews, it's not like just because someone's ethnically a Jew, they're wrong about everything literally.
That's not what I was saying, man. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is he came in and he came up with some crazy mystic story, and that's why it was dismissed by the Germans and the Austrians.
He's copying Hendrik Lorentz, though. So, like, you know, it's not even necessarily...
used an Aether model, but it didn't work. I'm just going to say, I mean, you're wrong about a lot of the stuff you're saying. Special relativity isn't about orbits falling. No, that's general relativity. Special relativity is about straight paths, not in the presence of gravitational fields. I was just wondering what you think about the fact that your belief has to think that the creator made it. So when we try to measure the earth moving, time slows down, but looks like it stayed the same. And the measuring apparatus contracted, but looks like it stayed the same so that it'll look like the earth is stationary. That's what Einstein did after he stole like 30 different pieces of work and put it together. So I didn't know if you think that's what you believe or not.
And he procreated with his cousin. He had a child with his cousin.
Well, just to be clear, you just said that special relativity...
have sex with her daughter.
You said special relativity has nothing to do with satellites?
Yeah, he did. He had sex with his
That's
cousin
provably wrong. Special relativity is if you just look up the Wikipedia article, they will tell you time dilation is experienced by satellites falling to the Earth. If you just read what they say. So whether or not you agree
it's
with that
Wikipedia.
theory, I'm not saying that it's right. I'm just saying that that's what they say. And you just told you said that I'm lying about it.
It's called atomic clocks. There's cell degradation that has anisotropic degradation because they use magnetic fields to realign the oscillation rate.
You just
I'm just
lied.
saying, research this stuff, man. Just reading a sentence on Wikipedia. What's a lie?
You lied because
satellites are about atomic clocks, and what they do is they have 9 billion little oscillations per second.
Special relativity and time dilation is claimed to be observed on satellites falling towards Earth.
And the way they claim that is with atomic clocks. Okay, so when you actually go research it, the first test that was supposedly going to verify it showed that it didn't match relativity's prediction, and it changed in both directions, both east and west, and they still don't have an answer for that, and they make relativistic transform corrections for it. So just reading a sentence off Wikipedia doesn't tell you the truth of the subject. I've been forced to get all nerdy and research a million things because of stuff like that. What the story you're saying isn't true. So now I have to go read all the history and say it all the time. It's really like
I was just pointing out what they claim. That's all that's the only point I was making. And you basically said that what Wikipedia is saying isn't really on Wikipedia or something. It's just bizarre.
All right, it's all good.
No, I was just saying that Wikipedia isn't a valid. You're not allowed to use Wikipedia in school. All right, Mac and Jack 33 says, to the pastor, God states explicitly in Psalm 93:1, the earth cannot be moved, yet you say we're flying 1,000,000 miles per hour through space. Did God not know his own creation worked until man corrected him? That's a question about Psalm 93:1. Again, these are not my personal opinions. I don't even understand what's happening.
No,
go ahead, Pastor.
That's great. So this is on that chart specifically that we brought up, Psalm 93, verse 1. And it says in the King James, the Lord reigneth, he is clothed with majesty, the Lord is clothed with strength, wherewith he hath girded himself. The world also established that it cannot be moved. So in Psalm 93, verse 1, it says the world. And another one if you pull up that chart, if you see the very next psalm they have in reference is Psalm 96, verse 10. And Psalm 96, verse 10 clarifies this because it says, say among the heathen that the Lord reigneth, the world also shall be established that it shall not be moved. He shall judge the people righteously. And if you skip down to verse 13, it says, before the Lord, for he cometh to judge the earth, he shall judge the world with righteousness and the people with his truth. So, of course, when the Bible says, for God so loved the world, it's not talking about the planet, it's talking about the people. So many times these references are very clearly talking about the people of the earth, the people of the world, or just people in general, and it clarifies in the psalm specifically. So yes, I do believe this. And the Bible talks about the world fearing, the earth fearing. That's not talking about the planet fearing. That's talking about these people specifically. So people are just taking the wrong interpretation of these particular verses and then claiming that I'm somehow ignorant of them. But if you actually compare scripture with scripture and you look at it, it's just talking about the people. There's no problem here. And specifically the earth, moving, there's plenty of verses that literally say that the earth is moving. There are verses that literally say the earth moved exceedingly. So these people are cherry picking verses. And when we actually look up other references, the Bible talks about it moving.
Like earthquakes, though? Is it like earthquakes are moving, or is it like spinning?
Both. Well, it's not talking about it spinning. I wouldn't say that there's a verse that I could point to that says that specifically. But I'm just saying they're cherry picking verses that claim it never moves in any capacity, whereas the Bible does bring up the fact that the earth moves.
Challenge him.
There's the great white throne judgment. The Bible says that the heaven and the earth fly away. So, there's plenty of evidence
from its previous stationary place, bro.
Well, again, I'm not going to sit here and say that the.
All right, let's move on. We got more. Real Rife technology. This is big. Austin, the LGBT supports a globe Earth model. In your opinion, does that make Pastor Shelley a gay?
It's a pretty compelling argument. I'll have to think about it for a second.
Shout out to Rife, dude. It's hilarious.
So what's your call on that one? I mean, it sounds pretty legit.
I think you
to
made
me.
a lot of babies too, right? You got a bunch of children, right?
I have 6.
Yeah, he's got a family.
Congratulations, man. You're crushing in that sense. So I'm all for it.
Well,
okay. Does the pastor have the?
As much as Owen Benjamin is just kind of a prick at the beginning of the show, we do have a lot of people watching. So thank you for, I guess being a prick or whatever it is that's caused people to watch the show.
Well, you got to admit, I haven't been a prick during the. Like, I was getting a little intense in the beginning. I apologize if I was too intense. I was just really trying to have a productive debate. And I think it kind of paid off a little. And, I feel like we're having a good time, right?
Yeah, I just wanted to make fun of flat earthers during the debate, but I see the point in just.
No, now you can, though. Now it's open.
Of course.
But hey, Pastor Shelley, don't you think it's funny that, like, the flat earthers always know way more about everything?
I've never experienced that. In fact, most of the flat earthers I've met have been some of the most wicked, evil people I've ever met in my life. They're criminals. They steal. They do drugs. Like, I'm not saying that that's representative of all flat earthers because that would be an unfair characteristic. But I am saying that the people that I know in my personal life, they're some of the worst people I've ever met. Not saying that that's
90% of the most evil people I've ever met all were Globers.
Sure.
That wasn't my point. I said that the flat earthers are way more informed. Can you admit that we research way more of this stuff? And isn't it interesting that there's one side that researched a lot of it and then didn't want to let go of the globe and get made fun of, and they kind of had to do so once they really researched, and then the other side just assumes that they're stupid, mocks them, ridicules them, but doesn't look into it? Don't you think that's a weird dynamic?
No, because I find that most people that are flat earthers do not research and they deny reality and they're delusional. So, like, I met a flat earther, or there's a flat earther that was a pastor. He said that he understood the truth about this, and then he ended up claiming that he's literally Jesus Christ. And his name's Tyler Doka. You can go look at his website right now. He literally claims he's Jesus Christ. So I've not found that these flat earthers research well, understand reality or the world we live in. I think that it's a strong delusion and a punishment for being gullible.
Okay, everyone should watch The Principle and learn about what's going on. That's all I'm saying.
All right. Headstrong says, does the pastor have the authority to deem things outside the confession of faith heretical? What about deeming things within the confession of faith heretical?
Well, again, I believe in a pastor-led church, so I do believe that the pastor has authority. Otherwise, the title's meaningless. That doesn't mean that the church isn't going to hold the pastor accountable for his viewpoints or their agreed upon creed or confession. I mean, generally speaking, my church subscribes to and agrees with my doctrinal statement. Otherwise, they wouldn't be there. And if I stepped outside of that, if I actually had Austin's view on the Bible, they would throw me out literally because I don't adhere to the King James Bible or the Word of God or the inspiration of Scripture. So, it's not like it's just my personal opinion that people are adhering to. We all have an agreed upon viewpoint. That's what a church is. It's not people of certain ethnicity or 5 minutes away from their house. It's people that all have the exact same worldview and opinion of Scripture, and we have a core doctrinal statement that we all subscribe to. So, it's just a bunch of straw men to assume like, oh, whatever Pastor Shelley's opinion is, people are going to do that. If I changed my viewpoint, if I became a flat earther or said that, I'm sure half my church would leave immediately, if not most all of it. If I deny the
So
King
you
James
definitely don't have
Bible or
any
of these
emotional
things-
bias in this at all.
Well, that would be silly to say that I don't hold unpopular opinions. I mean, I've said lots. I preached against flat Earth and lost people from my church, and I've specifically preached plenty of things that caused protests, all kind lawsuits. We've been evicted. I'm probably the most canceled person that I even know. I'm on a credit card blacklist.
Yeah, but flat Earth would just be one step too far. Don't you agree? Like it's
I don't
different.
care. I would preach flat Earth if it was true. I don't really care.
All right,
I have
cool,
no
brother.
personal.
I'm gonna
If
give
you mean that, then you're cool.
Pastor Shelley a little props. I'm gonna give Pastor Shelley a little props from my perspective. He does seem to believe it. It doesn't seem like he's lying, and I do understand people that don't want to like bicker a ton in church. Like our homeschool group just doesn't debate a ton of stuff, and I love that. So I'm not just going to immediately say that there's something wrong with that. I'm just,
No, I
just for
agree,
the
I agree
record,
with that. I agree with that. But you're pretty aggressive against flat earthers. That's the difference, right? Like just saying, "Oh, let's not talk about it," it's a little different.
Well, I'm
But
talking about it.
I agree with the general sentiment. What?
I'm talking about it right now.
Yeah. It's all good. It's all okay. You are obviously quite aggressive.
Sure,
with
I'm
flat
not.
earthers,
I'm
it's all
definitely
good.
very aggressive, and I'm very
Yeah.
hostile towards that view. But here's the thing: I don't want people to believe stupid things. Like I don't want people to get COVID shots. I don't want people to vaccinate their children. I don't want people to commit abortion. I don't want people to think that men can turn into women. Like I'm going to be hostile towards things that I think are not true.
Yeah,
because
you
I
believe
care
that,
about
but this
people.
is what I think the same thing. You believe that everything in the world is backwards, that the creator made this place to trick you where everything's the opposite of what we experience. And then you probably don't even know, right, that mainstream astronomy and astrophysicists will tell you that the earth could be in the center of the universe and there's a kinematic and dynamic equivalence and you can never disprove it. We just don't like that idea of being special. And I could quote every mainstream, most famous physicist ever knows that, but the general public doesn't know that. Right? You don't know that. You probably think that's not true. I must be wrong. The earth can be in the center and special, and they're lying. And so I would say, I think that has significant implications, right? Like if you think everything's backwards, that's how they did COVID. They're like, no, the air that keeps you alive is going to kill you. And even though people are healthy, they're sick. And when you can't trust your senses and find the truth yourself, you have to turn to authority and you become enslaved. So I think that's the reason that this is pretty important.
I don't feel enslaved
the
at
Amish
all.
potato.
I mean, when it comes
Okay.
to the biblical viewpoint, I don't think God's tricking us at all. The Bible is clear that the sun, moon, and stars were made for the seasons and for the times. And it's clear that's what we get our calendar from. The year is from an orbit of the earth around the sun. We have a day because of the rotation of the earth. We have a month, generally speaking, because of the moon's orbit, and that's
my
how the
God.
original Hebrew calendar was calculated.
Spin your globe.
And on a flat earth model, none of those things even exist anymore. It's arbitrary what's a year or a day. And we, of course, get the week from the creation week, the 7 days. So all of our calendar has been based on those specific cosmological viewpoints. God is not tricking anyone. You can see the sun rise in the east and set in the west, which is telling you either one of two things. Either A, we're spinning, or B, that's spinning around us. But if the sun were moving around us in that way, the sides of the earth would not get this daylight that we observe. Plus, you'd have things breaking the speed of light, considering how far that they are away. And so, there's no trick here. It's really simple. It's really easy to understand that the Bible and this viewpoint, heliocentrism or the spherical earth, are compatible with Scripture. And I wish that people would subscribe to the King James Bible because I believe it's word perfect. It's God's word. He gave it to us, and it doesn't have any mistakes. And if you read it clearly, it's not going to lead you to that conclusion.
Yeah.
Okay, Citizen Lens. Citizen Lens says, does the pastor believe that photos of the globe Earth taken from space are real? Was the moon landing broadcast live? It was one of his first points. So yeah, do you believe that the moon landing was broadcast live? And do you believe in the photos taken by NASA from space?
I do believe that we went to the moon. I believe that the vast majority of photos from space are very likely true and legitimate. They do have raw photo. You can go to NASA's website right now, and you can look at lens images that are not fisheye lens viewpoint. They're raw photos. They show the sphere. And, again, I at one point seriously considered the moon landing being fake because in 7th grade specifically, our science teacher did not believe that the moon landing was real, and he made us watch a documentary exposing the moon landing is being faked. And I watched the whole thing, and I just came to the conclusion that their evidence was not legitimate. And when I looked at the other side, what they had to point to, it seemed very reasonable, logical, and plausible that the moon landing was legitimate. Plus, you can go to a museum in Houston right now, and they have a whole exhibit of how they took the Bible to the moon specifically. And the astronauts most of them were Christians, a lot of them were Christians, and they wanted to bring the Bible onto the moon. They specifically even read the Bible on live broadcast. The Apollo 8 read Genesis chapter number 1 when they were in orbit and when they could see the Earth from their
probably
view.
like a non-profit too.
I believe that all that is legitimate and true. We could listen to the audio broadcast right now.
This just got way worse,
Preston,
man. This got way worse. You believe in the moon landing, bro? Like, come on, bro. You can debunk
Preston,
the moon landing.
Do you even believe in the moon?
Light. What?
Do you even believe in the moon? Like, what is the moon?
I want to know who I believe in. Is I believe in the people that are asking questions. Okay, here we go.
Fair enough, yeah.
Preston Taylor 1611 says, flat earth is so stupid it causes people with brains to reject the gospel because they think the Bible teaches flat earth, and it does not. That's why we're hostile and aggressive. It's damning. What say you, Austin?
Yeah, I mean, in reality, to believe that the Bible's true and that the earth is a globe, right, you have to say that the biblical descriptions are figurative or metaphorical, and you could say the same thing in any scenario, right? I mean, that's what's required, literally, unless you twist what it says. But actually what happens, bro, is tons of atheists discover that the earth's actually in the center of the universe and that we were grossly lied to about it, and all the physicists and astrophysicists know about it. And then they're like, wait a minute, this changes everything. And then they re-examine the Bible as potentially viable again, because there is no denying a creator if the earth's in the center of the universe. And then they're like, wait, the scriptures are giving us a lot of descriptions. And now we discovered that the earth is not what we thought it was. It's brought way more people to the scriptures than it's turned away from the scriptures. That's a very wild argument. But anyway, that's my response.
Pastor, would you like to respond?
Yeah, again, I think that when I meet people that are flat earthers, they don't care about the Bible. They don't care about it being preserved. They don't go soul winning. They usually don't take church attendance very seriously. You know, I'm dedicated to going to church, reading the Bible, memorizing it, studying it. I go out soul winning and try to evangelize people with the gospel. And most flat earthers, the only thing they want to ever talk about is the shape of the earth.
Well, you did admit you wouldn't let them in, though. So
no, I didn't
why
say
would
that.
a flat earther
I said
go
that
to
I
a
just wouldn't let
church?
someone go around evangelizing that theory to every single person.
Or
in my
just
church.
saying their opinion about it.
Well,
Yeah.
they can have an opinion.
happened to
There's a
free
difference
speech?
between expressing your opinion
gotta
and
keep
going
it
around
quiet.
teaching people. Like, so if someone come up to me
Oh,
and
totally.
so someone said like, hey, do you believe the earth is flat? And they said, yeah, I do. I'm not going to throw them out of church. But if they're like trying to take everybody
Okay,
to their
good.
house and teaching it secretly and trying to go against the church, like it wouldn't matter what doctrine it was. It just wouldn't be healthy for a church specifically. A church needs to have some
What you're
level
saying
of
they couldn't
agreement.
go tell people outside of the church? That
They
is
couldn't-
so crazy.
No, they couldn't
culty,
be
bro.
taking people to a side or into their house and trying to teach against the church, because then there's no point in going to our church.
What?
Like if you don't have any if you don't have any kind of consensus as far as like what you guys believe, like it doesn't make sense. Like if I believe the King James Bible is the Bible we should use, but people are going around saying no, we should use the NIV, well then we're gonna have to say, hey, this person can't be part of our church because they just don't even believe, you know, what we believe.
Did you realize that the
specifically.
prophets and everything?
How would you, real quick, how would you monitor what people are teaching in their house? Like, what would be the way to figure out who's going against it?
Yeah, I don't monitor anything whatsoever. So it would just simply be if people came to me.
If you heard about it.
If people came to me
They
and just said,
snitched.
hey, this person is teaching this false doctrine, and multiple witnesses came to me and told me all that, then I would address it with them and say, hey, we believe a certain way. We don't want people to, you know, go against what the church's teachings are. So if you don't agree, maybe you should find a different church that agrees with you on that particular issue. And if not, then we'd have to take it before the church, and it could elevate to the point of church discipline. But again, that would be any doctrine specifically.
What if, this is from B. Smith, what if Sunday school carpet is debated between solar system carpet or plain carpet? Who gets kicked out of the church?
If it's not a direct tie to something the Bible teaches, I don't care.
Cool. So the carpet, either carpet opinion, you're good.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Nice. Okay.
I saw some good
someone else
questions in
asked-
there.
I really am trying to answer every single one, even the negative ones. Like I literally don't. Like, should we drink Kool-Aid? Austin, talk more. Which is the real denomination? Like, I don't know how Austin stays so calm. What else?
No.
Lose him again?
Oh, okay. That damn router.
Let's go. Soul winning is going out and converting people for Christ.
Oh my god.
Dude, you're not out
Bad
there.
cult internet.
You're not out there soul winning, bro.
I mean, not currently.
Like, I don't know how Austin calm. What else?
Like, there's a couple of things Pastor said I'm obligated to believe in because I share the same faith. There's a couple of things he was right about in there.
Ah, what a drag.
Yeah, the whole, like, Jesus Christ on a stick is much more important than the flat earth, but when you believe in Jesus Christ and you believe in the globe earth, you declare God a liar.
The pastor is a psychopathic ignoramus.
Yeah, I mean, he was
Take that psychopathic ignoramus content there.
Well, seems like the stream broke. By the way, should I keep it like this so we could see the chat? Or no?
You just refresh.
Yeah, sure, unless they're sharing their screen, which I doubt they will again. Yeah, why not?
Like, I don't know how Austin stays so calm. What else?
Questions in here.
Pastor Jew bag.
Let me see.
Dude, Owen Benjamin is simultaneously the worst and the best moderator of all time. It's completely hilarious.
I would concur.
Perfect.
That was odd.
He's great. Oh. No, boy.
Is it back?
Yeah.
Address a couple more with Owen.
God, there's no spam control in that chat. That sucks.
Rumble.
No, I think it's his problem.
Someone said I'm a NASA lover. Someone said let Austin talk more. Someone said a museum LOL. Preston Taylor. We read that one. He read that one out loud. NASA are devil worshippers, says Jesus loves you 777. The moon is flat. It's a two-dimensional point of light in the firmament. It's small and local. I've never.
All right, we're back in business. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No, it's all good. I think we're really cooking. All right, cool. So we can keep going. What do you guys want to do? You want to answer a few more?
Yeah, I think so. There were some good questions in there.
Let me know if you see any questions, or you can just state the question and answer it if you see something I don't. Why is the sun and moon seen at the same time during the day?
That's just simply because the moon is orbiting the Earth. And so at any point they could line up. I mean, that's what we literally saw was the solar eclipse not that long ago, where the moon literally was in the direct path of the sun for some people in the United States, and they saw that solar eclipse. I'm curious, Austin, do you think that was really the moon in front of the sun, or do you think it was something else?
Yeah, if it was the moon, it works on a flat Earth. I didn't see the moon approach or leave it, so I don't know. But if it is, it works on a flat Earth, so I'm open either way. In fact, it only works on a flat Earth. I just want to say this one more time so the audience knows this is really crazy. You can try this at home. It cannot be what the globe model says, because if you take a sphere and put it in front of a spherical light source and project that onto another sphere, the shadow does not remain a perfect circle as it crosses the face. It actually turns into an oval and then goes back to a circle because of the geometry of the object the shadow's on. So I know that it's not a spherical Earth casting a shadow, or that it's just two spheres casting a shadow. It just isn't physically possible. So I don't know. I think that we're not supposed to fully understand the heavens. I think we're supposed to admire them.
Just for clarity, I just want to make sure. Are you saying that you agree that the moon moved in front of the sun, or you're just saying
Please
it's possible?
allow Witsit to explain how
I'm saying it's
Do you
possible. We
know
don't see the sun
Gabriel?
approach it. We don't see the sun leave
you
it.
know, Rue?
So I'm not going to claim that. I mean, in your model, you just say, I promise the sun disappears because it's not being lit up or something. So
Well, the
I'm
sun
open either
disappeared
way, like
because
I
I
said.
watched it disappear, and it was actually turned dark in the middle of the day.
No,
Like,
the
I
moon. The
experienced
moon
that.
disappears as the new moon for like up to 3 days, 12 hours to 3 days, and you say it's because the sun's not lighting it up. And I go more the Enoch explanation, right? That it's a cycle and it basically has a relationship with the sun that charges it. But I don't know. I'm
So
saying
the
if it
moon's
was the
charging?
moon, it worked. You know that if it's what it says in Enoch. I'm guessing you don't like Enoch, but what I'm
Well,
saying
Enoch
is
says that women gave birth to 450-foot tall giants. So I'm curious if you believe that's true.
I don't want to die. No,
Well,
the unit
I'm
that people
6'8".
claim is wrong, but it doesn't matter.
I mean, I know that Owen's pretty big, but I don't think that his mom gave birth to him.
But
at
did
that
you get
size.
my point that even on a flat Earth, it would work if it was the moon?
No, it doesn't work at all, because it would have to be a sphere specifically. And again, the patterns I showed with that map show that the solar eclipses do not follow any kind of model that's on the flat Earth map. So the solar eclipses specifically disprove the flat Earth models that are demonstrated and shown.
See, this is where we would have a problem, is if I've corrected you and you go research and find out what I said's true, which is that the prediction's not based on that at all. It works perfectly fine. It comes from a flat Earth civilization, and then you just keep saying it. Then we're getting in dangerous territory. And I know maybe right now you assume I'm wrong because I'm a flat Earther. I must be wrong. I promise you the eclipse prediction isn't in any way specific to a globular assumption and where it's spinning or revolving. It's not at all. I encourage you to look into it. Go to adl.place and you will be able to see all of it explained.
Crush Bandicoot 7 says, for Pastor Shelley, we're all the same countries in on the COVID vax together.
I mean, specifically, I don't know exactly the widespread nature of the COVID vaccines, because it seems like it was mostly like the developed countries and then affiliates of America specifically. I think that generally speaking, I think everybody kind of subscribes to the vaccine viewpoint. So, when it comes to vaccines specifically, though, they have a hard time handing these out to the citizens. But I don't really care what these governments subscribe to, because if they go against America, they're going to lose funding. And so a lot of times they don't even necessarily agree with these things. They just don't want to lose funding or get harassment or have sanctions or all kinds of stuff. So I don't know that necessarily proves anything that a lot of countries were in on the COVID vaccines. I know that some countries even didn't subscribe to them and didn't pass them out in the same way. So
yeah, Haiti, they killed him. Now, the point is, like, you referenced all the countries with the moon landing, satellites, all that. The point is pretty obvious. The countries that don't want to lose funding from a very small group of people in America go along with whatever they're told. Golfer Bear says, please allow Witsit to explain how obvious and gay the moon landing is. Go ahead, Witsit. I guess the people want to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, in every single way, it's obviously faked and gay. But the easiest way to debunk the moon landing is the actual amount of time it takes for them to communicate back and forth, according to the speed of light and the assumption that the moon is 238,000 miles away. A round trip is 2.5 seconds. And that means that you cannot communicate any faster than that. And both ways, they respond to each other under 2.5 seconds at times, being literally and physically impossible for them to have been actually on a moon 238,000 miles away, proving that it was fake. We've also have declassified documents to show that the CIA had what's called traveling map method in the mid 60s. They were highly interested in, which is basically green screen. So people say, oh, the technology didn't even exist. The CIA disagrees. They were very interested in how to fake films right before the moon landing, and they used infrared version of a green screen But anyway, the communication directly falsifies it. Obviously, you can just talk about how stupid the moon landing is forever, from the tweaker hut they called the lander, to how fast they talked, to the shadows, to them hopping around, to them dropping things. I mean, it just goes on forever. But, to each their own.
American Shinobi says, shout out to Owen, the moderator. Why, thank you. I could do a better job, but I'm trying as hard as I can. Okay, why can you never see stars in any official footage from space, whether it's the moon landing or current ISS live stream? I guess that's a question for Pastor Shelley.
Well, if I just take my phone out right now and I just go take a picture of the sky, I probably won't see any stars in that particular photo either. So it's pretty obvious that sometimes, when you take certain photos, it doesn't have the contrast settings to necessarily capture all of that light. When I took a picture of the solar eclipse, it did not look like what it actually looked like in real life. Sometimes cameras are limited in how much light they're going to bring in. So, it's not really a problem whatsoever. I believe there is plenty of pictures of stars in the sky because we literally have them. So it's just kind of a straw man of just not understanding how lenses or photography even works.
Do we have phones now that it can literally adjust exposure settings like multiple times to different levels in the same picture? You could just turn the camera away from a light source. There's no videos in space of stars. You know why? Because it'd be way too hard to fake that, because the constellations moving in relation to their path, we'd be able to catch them faking it.
So if I show you a video, if I show you a video of stars in the sky, you're going to just say it's fake? Because there are.
Show me them out in space with the video of stars, but we'll look at it and see if it lines up with where they claim they are. It doesn't exist, though.
So there's no videos, or they're all fake? Because I want to understand.
There are no videos outside of low Earth orbit even claim to be real with stars in the videos. Like none. So that's pretty sketchy, don't you think? Don't you think if you went to space in a vacuum, all you would see is stars? You'd be swimming in a sea of stars. The first thing you would do is give people like 4K live stream of just the beautiful sea of stars.
I could take this camera outside right now and just point toward the sky, and you probably wouldn't see anything. So it doesn't really matter.
This guy's retarded.
There's plenty of photographs of the stars.
This guy's actually retarded.
I just agree with your viewpoint.
Earth. All right, brother. It's all good.
Okay, well, we got some more here if anybody wants to keep going. What do we got here? This person has written this like 1,000 times. I don't understand it, but maybe someone does. Owen, please ask Pastor Shelley how there can be waters above the sun and stars, since they are above the firmament in Genesis and still exist in Psalm 148:4. These waters flooded earth in Noah's day.
So again, this is a great question. I'm glad that we get to ask it, because the Bible talks about there's 3 heavens. And the first heaven is what we know as the sky. And then we have the second heaven, which we know as space. And the third heaven is where God resides. So the verses that they're pointing out of waters being above the heaven, that's specifically talking about clouds. So it's a really easy explanation. And it's just that it's just not cool. It doesn't like prove the flat earth. So people just reject that very obvious and clear interpretation. Proverbs chapter number 8, it's very clear in verses like 26, 27, and 28. It actually gives you the day 1, 2, 3 of creation, and it clearly says that he established the clouds. So, that, and I don't know if you know, clouds are made of water. So it's just very clear that the water that's above the firmament is talking about clouds.
Okay. Someone says, Austin, please take some time to discuss the implications of propaganda and how it prevents one from understanding the truth about Earth. It's more of a command than a question, but
that's a pretty vague question. But I will point this out. It's very important in my opinion. Whatever you end up believing, we were not told the truth about this discussion just objectively. We were told like it's a scientific fact that's been proven that the solar system's real and we're flying through space. If you actually go read Stephen Hawking, Albert Einstein, Arthur Eddington, you name it, every astronomer and astrophysicist worth their salt at all in the world will tell you the Earth could be in the center of the universe because there's what's called a kinematic equivalence. There's actually a dynamic equivalence as well. Fancy terms just means that everything can look like it's moving around the Earth or vice versa, equally valid. But we weren't told that. We weren't told that because of the Copernican principle. They chose to think we weren't special because Edwin Hubble said it was intolerable and horrific. So that's an example of the propaganda. They teach you these stories as if they're fact and science, and they leave out all the actual important evidence, right? So it's basically giving you like a very like select amount of information to guide how you believe, and they show you a ball when you don't even know how to think about anything yourself, and then you just kind of have an emotional attachment to it. So I would encourage people just make up their own mind. As long as you can walk away like I made up my own mind, then that's better than just believing it.
Okay, here's a question for Pastor Shelley. How can pressure of Earth's atmosphere exist adjacent to the no pressure of space in an infinite vacuum? Without a physical barrier, the air would violently evacuate.
I mean, I believe that the explanation is just gravity is holding down parts of the atmosphere. And so obviously you can get to a point where molecules can get outside of Earth's orbit and just kind of float away. But generally speaking, it doesn't need a container to hold it in. It's simply just being held in by gravity specifically.
Yeah,
And that's just
you got
our
God,
atmosphere.
bro.
But again, people will say
Dude,
that
Owen
gravity
has
is
asked
not
3 of my
real, or
questions, and
they'll-
this
they'll make
pastor
all these
straight
claims
lied.
about gravity not being true. But it's obvious that things do fall down towards the Earth. That's just an observable fact. So I don't understand why air molecules wouldn't do the same thing. And in fact, even in
Well,
scientific
bro, I asked him, I was
experiments, you
like,
can
how do you
see
explain the
different air
waters
pressures,
above the
changing
firmament?
based
Or
on
the waters being
gravity,
above the
and
sun?
they're mixing even in a closed system or an open system. So it doesn't really matter that the atmosphere is existing on the Earth. I don't know what the flat Earth model would explain to that. It's really just a problem for both models to explain. And I think gravity does make sense. The flat Earth model doesn't have anything to explain that.
Well, it has a container. So yeah, it does. The antecedent.
But why
to
wouldn't
gas
all the air
pressure-
just float all the way to the top of this container?
Because there are temperature fluctuations, and what we have is a gas cycle on the Earth. Most of the gas is cycled at the Earth, so most of it stays there. It then separates based on density, and we have a downward electric current. We have EM energy coming from the sky. The point that they're making is you can't even have the gas pressure to have the gradient without it being contained. And if you're saying it's gravity, well, first of all, you're just kind of begging the question that's true, but where gravity is the strongest on the Earth, it will still fill a vacuum.
Sun.
So why doesn't it stop the gas from filling a vacuum on the Earth where gravity is the
Yeah, that's my
strongest?
question too.
It's just a claim. They actually claim some of the gas does get off into space. They say we lose tons of hydrogen every day. But anyway, yeah, I mean, you can't use an experiment to show an open system. You know, you have to use a container for gas pressure. So it's called special pleading. They're like, "Oh, this is the one exception in the universe. Trust me, bro," which is what the globe always does, to be honest.
Well, if I open a
Hey,
Coke can,
Pastor.
doesn't the air, diffuse? So it's now an open system.
Yes,
and we
yes.
see
The
that.
second law of thermodynamics supports our point.
Okay.
That's actually, yeah, it supports the other point. All right. Hey, Pastor, explain how a rocket produces thrust in space with no air molecules to push against. Also, thanks for proving you clearly know nothing about biblical cosmology. We're trying to avoid that. But yeah, thrust in space with in a vacuum. How does thrust work in a vacuum?
Well, if we're talking about going to the moon specifically, I believe that you simply just take your rocket, you shoot up, you take the Earth's orbit, and it uses a slingshot effect. And they simply just use that slingshot. They use a little bit of thrust to get outside of the Earth's orbit to escape, and they have to slingshot themselves towards the moon. So the vast majority of the trip in space is actually just a consistent trajectory. Now, they do potentially use their thrusters to make adjustments. I believe that's what the Apollo 13 movie is even about, is specifically that.
So how do you leave the moon then? The moon's a vacuum allegedly. So how would they blast off without a, how would they leave the moon? Because that's the alleged claim.
Again, I don't know what the atmosphere of the moon is. I mean, it's difficult.
It's claimed by NASA. It's zero. They have no atmosphere.
Again, I don't know exactly how they would
fine.
argue for that
I don't know if
specific thrust.
Okay, I'm curious to know Pastor Shelley's view on dinosaurs. Are they real or made up?
The word dinosaur is not found in the Bible, but there is two creatures that are alluded to as far as Leviathan and Behemoth, and they do sound like creatures of stature and size that we don't have today. Additionally, there's a lot of cities and civilizations throughout history that have appealed to certain large animals. So I do believe that there was probably some creatures like a behemoth that fit some of the bone structures that we find in museums today. But I do think it's also reasonable that some of the dinosaur fossils that are, quote, found don't really add up to the creatures that they claim they are. If you go to a lot of these museums, you'll notice that they're pretty much all 100% casts. They're not actually any bones whatsoever. There's very few bones that they actually have on display, and not even in some of the most prominent museums do they even have anything that's a legitimate bone. So I think that it's probably a mixture of, there's probably some fiction and some fact to that, but I do think the Bible does appeal to a creature in Job as Behemoth that does not fit an elephant or a rhino, and I believe it's very likely that it could have been some type of what we call dinosaur, and that they would have existed with man. They were created in the 6-day creation in Genesis 1.
Ginny has a spicy question for Austin. Why is Austin drinking breast milk?
What? I was drinking orange juice, but
Allegedly,
I
I
don't know.
mean, that's your claim.
Yeah.
I mean, allegedly you're drinking,
Touche.
but according to a
Touche.
Rumble chat, it's breast milk, and we want to know what's going on. All right, American Shinobi says, Pastor, what are the odds we lost all knowledge and tech to make it to the moon and back, which is what NASA claims, and why haven't we went back?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Number one, China and India and other countries have visited the moon since then. India recently landed on the moon. But when it comes to technology, it's definitely lost all the time. We don't know how to build the pyramids. We don't know how they built certain things of antiquity. But, if you understand NASA in the 60s and the 70s, like a lot of the information was not in a computer. A lot of the information was in the head of their scientists, of their astronauts. They had to be able to do certain calculations in their head on the fly. And so a lot of that information doesn't necessarily get transferred, doesn't get written down. It's not any different than if you just drop me and Austin and Owen on an island by ourselves. We're not going to start manufacturing cars and computers and cell phones. Like, we don't know how to do that.
You got this. We'll just wing
And
it.
so there's not really any difference to a particular space program being shut down and that generation passing away and bringing a new generation, and they don't necessarily understand all of the technology that they had at that time. But you have Elon Musk and other people reinventing it, coming up with new processes, new technologies, new spacecrafts, new rockets. In fact, the rockets that they make for SpaceX, they actually reuse them. So the thrusters, they send them up, and then they come back and land back down, and they're able to reuse that particular portion of the spacecraft. And so, it's not like technology being lost over time.
We
is a new
reload ammo
phenomenon.
now, too.
That's something that is very common, and it's a human condition. So I think it's something we should all take note of, is that we need to also be smart and not just let technology go by the wayside.
Totally. And I think it's a great time to start landing the plane. We're pushing 3 hours now, and everybody's been having a blast. And I just like to personally thank both of you guys for doing this. Pastor Shelley, Wits It Gets It. I thought this went really fun. I mean, the chat really enjoyed themselves, especially once I started reading their stuff. I think that they're enjoying it. I think everybody made some good points. And let's, each of you guys, 3 minutes, make a statement to your people, where people can find you, why you think this is important, but how we can still all get along. Let's wrap it up fun. Let's start with Austin.
Yeah. So, like, the reason that I do this, man, and this may trigger some people here, is this isn't really something I would have ever done. If anyone knew me before I talked about this a lot, they would not believe this would ever happen. I had a very spiritual experience, and I started feeling kind of led to talk about how we're being misled about what was created for us. And it hasn't been easy for me, man. I lost a very good job offer. I've been completely ostracized and blah, blah, blah. And I don't care, but I mean, I'm not a victim or anything. I'm just pointing out that the motivation for flat earthers is nothing like what people seem to think it is. And the reason that I do all that is because it changes many people's lives, and that's just a fact. And flat earth is so dangerous that someone may move out of a city and make 5 babies and grow a garden or something, so it gets you close to the creator and grounded and more appreciative of what's here, and more intuitively like in line with what you experience. And so I just want the audience to go look into these things, like watch the Principle documentary, watch Heliosorcery. That's where you'll learn the true history of geocentrism. Inform yourself on these things, and you'll find out that there's something called the Copernican Principle. And that's the idea that the earth does not occupy a special or unique place. And these crazy atheistic people that want to believe in evolution and hate the idea of God and all this stuff, they push the Copernican Principle of philosophy into this discussion and now claim that it's science. And what you'll find out is the evidence actually shows that the Earth's in the center. And in fact, that we built huge telescopes for the first time ever in the early 1900s. We saw out to what people call galaxies, and everything was moving around the Earth. And they're like, wait a minute, this is not supposed to be happening. Did they step back and say, oh, maybe the Earth is in the center? Of course not. They made up new stories that everything's accelerating, expanding, creating another illusion. And whenever we measured it, time slowed down and tricked us and blah, blah, blah. Because these people, they have a philosophical bias against it. So long story short, to wrap it up, just go look into that. I have a geocentrism stream that if you really find out what happened, it's not what you're being led to believe, right? And I encourage everyone to just kind of be more patient and kind with people, because what you don't know is the people that are on this side have done lots of research, and they found out, whoa, this is like a huge lie that we're being told. We're being misled about the actual observations, and it shows that the Earth's in the center. And finally, that would, of course, mean if the Earth's in the center, the question is who placed it there? And it's a pretty significant and impactful thing. So I encourage people just to stay open-minded and try to be humble and kind to people.
Well, thank you, It's a Gets It. And I don't know how to do a poll in someone else's chat, but if you guys in the chat want to just say who you thought won, just say the name and then a W, because that's important to know. And I'd also like to apologize to Pastor Shelley in the beginning. I was way too bitchy. I can do that. I'm sorry. It ended up being great. Sorry. I was like, I really had a good time, and I was way too aggressive in the beginning. So if you guys watch from the beginning, I'm going to time travel a little Einstein style. My bad. He turned out to be a good dude. Okay. Final closing thoughts for Pastor Shelley.
Yeah, I want to thank both parties for being on the show. And even though Owen was a prick at the beginning, he warmed up, so I appreciate that. And
My
you
bad.
know, when it comes to this specific issue, you know, I believe there's just so much reality denial when it comes to the flat Earth position. And of course, the government's lying about a lot of things. Of course, there's a lot of conspiracy theories that are true. And of course, I believe the Bible. But I think that sometimes people go a little overboard with the idea that the government's lying. Look, 2 + 2 is still 4. And, you know, there's some level of reality that we can all adhere to. I don't think everybody's in on this scam. And specifically, you know, the sun itself, if we're orbiting around the sun is a picture of God. And, you know, the world is not about us. It's about God, and it's about us serving and worshiping him. And specifically, the most important truth that you can ever get is the gospel of Jesus Christ, being saved. You know, the Bible makes it clear that we've all sinned, and if we don't get saved, that we would go to hell, which is in the center of the sphere. And that's a place I don't want anyone to go to. That's a bad time to realize that the Earth's a sphere is when you're in hell burning. And so I want people to see the Bible makes it clear that Jesus Christ died on the cross for all our sins, was buried and rose again. And all we have to do is simply put our trust in him one time, put your faith in him alone for salvation, and you will be saved. You will go to heaven when you die. That's the most important truth. And of course, I do think that there's other things that are important. That's why we're having a discussion. We're bringing up these different topics. I do believe that NASA's not lying on this specific issue, but that doesn't mean that I care what NASA thinks, because I really don't. And people have believed in the sphere and believed everything I'm saying before NASA ever existed. So it's just a straw man to say that I just love these institutions or something like that. I don't care at all. I just want people to be saved, and I don't want people to be stupid and look like idiots.
Who's spamming
and unfortunately,
the fucking soundboard?
The reason why people are mocking you for being a flat earther is because you're being stupid. They love you. Sometimes rebuke is coming from a place of love.
That's what I thought.
Jesus said that he rebukes those whom he loves.
I can't help
and you know, the Bible talks about parents spanking their children as a form of love. And so sometimes you tell someone that they're just being a retard and an idiot because they are, and you love them and you want them to stop subscribing to stupid, idiotic things like the flat earth. And I really hope that people will check out the evidence, because it's abundant that the earth is a sphere. Everything proves that. The Bible proves that. Don't listen to weird cultists who are trying to just suck you down a bad rabbit hole.
Nice. That was a very eloquent close. And with that, we're going to land the plane. I'd like to thank Pastor Johnathan Shelley. He just it's the Baptist Bias here on Rumble. And I think he got a lot of people to watch. I mean, we've had almost over 2,000 the whole time. So took some courage and some balls and some open-mindedness to come have this chat. Of course, Witsit Gets It. Austin, I love his stuff. I've known him for a long time. If you want to check him out, I think he's on YouTube, right? Witsit?
Yeah. Just for this part of the topics, yeah.
Yeah, he's on YouTube. He's on Rumble. He's on all the places. I did a moderate job. It's okay if you thought I was annoying. I tried my best. But you can find me on rumble.com/user/Owen Benjamin. And yeah, I felt like this was great. And I will see you guys soon and be good to each other. Much love.
I think it's pretty clear who won.
Is that it?
I think Jesus measuring the globe was pretty convincing, and I don't know how to rectify that with my belief system now.
Well, be careful what you say. You might end up in the middle of a sphere.
Oh, dude, that's right. You know what? I better get right with that.
Yeah, that was brutal.
Oh, dude.
Get right with God or go to the center of a sphere.
That was so funny. Wow.
Yeah, so that was definitely entertaining at times.
That was frustrating.
That was
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of numb to a lot of it at this point.
That was definitely a 3-hour event. Approximately 3 hours has transpired since the event started. So
we can agree on that, yeah.
Yes.
Cool. Well, anyways, thanks everyone for being here and for checking out the debate. And yeah, check back in with the Baptist Bias. Check over there on Rumble. Actually, if you want to watch this debate without us being, talking over it and stuff, go over there. Actually, you can watch it over there. And then also, I believe it will be mirrored to Witsit Gets It's channel, so check it out over there as well. And then if you want to, or you should definitely pop over here tomorrow at 7 p.m. for Sky Miles presentation from Shane St. Pierre. Looking forward to that. And then Thursday, we will have reading night, and we will be doing the third night of reading from Shankar's Physics. We will be getting into chapter 4, more Newtonian dynamics. Yeah. So let's go ahead and close it out. Thanks everyone for being here. Take care. Oh, and of course, Friday, episode 1. Oh, look at what we got. We got Witsit. Witsit, we are live. Is there anything you want to say to the stream, or should we close it out?
Nah, you're good, man. Yeah, much love to everybody. That's it.
all right,
Congrats
peace.
on your second win.
Oh, thanks. I guess.
Yo, went ahead and muted Discord. Gonna go ahead and finish that closeout. So Friday will be Flat Earth Fridays, episode 100. Be sure to tune in for that, and you can get your notification from the Flat Earth